advantage of the sound,
The acoustics.
right?
All right.
Oh, Bubby.
Oh, Bubby.
Oh,
Let's yeah.
Yeah.
Crystal clear.
crystal, dude. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, I can feel my skin.
I can hear my hair grow.
The downside of having great mics,
Yeah.
you hear everything.
Yeah, and headphones.
And headphones. I mean, the best like piece of advice I got when I was like listening to people talk about setting up podcasts is like, look, try to make sure you have headphones, because we have like when it's 2 people, it's not that bad. But I have noticed when we've tried to do 4 or 5 people on a podcast, it's just everyone needs to have a headphone so that way they don't. Because as soon as you start talking, yeah, it's like you can hear, oh, he's talking.
Yep. Yep.
It's like
over talk. Let people finish their sentences.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wants to talk.
Or like,
yeah.
or just like one of our buddies, he just kept doing that thing where he'd talk and then all of a sudden he just kept. I was like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was. I was done.
Yep. Well, and you can make sure that you're not too close to the mic to hear yourself breathing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hi, welcome to this episode.
I can't hear this bitch. Ew.
Yeah.
God, stop.
Yeah. Right. I hate that.
Oh, nasty. All right, I'm gonna turn this off.
So you got your phone on quiet?
Yep.
All right. We ready?
Yeah.
All righty.
Oh, I thought we started.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to definitely the best sounding podcast of the series thus far. We're here with our esteemed, amazing, and absolutely astonishing engineer tech, as well as a musician himself, Mr. Bradley Neal.
Oh, fucking Neil.
Oh, buddy.
I like it. I like it.
Dude,
I'm adding that in.
Thank you so much for like letting us come here and do
No,
this.
absolutely.
At your place,
This
man.
is great. Have never done a podcast,
Dude. Well, I mean, it's just like I was thinking about it. Is like my friends are great. I think my friends are great. However,
Good. I would hope so.
it's just when it comes to doing other music stuff, I'm me and unless they're in the band or like in the bands in the past, there's not really that many other music people
Yeah.
in my friend circle.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, dude, who'd be a good guest to have on a podcast? I was like, dude, Brad. He's literally the guy. He's in it, man.
Well, I appreciate it. This is cool. This is fun.
Well, yeah, dude. So, kind of to get things started off, we're in the underground attic. Like, what can you tell us? What gave you that name and like kind of how like the idea started?
Good. So I had a different studio back in my old house.
Mm-hmm.
There was just one room, and it was pretty much just in a basement.
Yeah.
And we had to come up with something cool, something people would kind of remember. And that just the initials UA are everywhere in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny. It was me and a buddy of mine who was in the band, and I was in a band with at the time. I'm pretty sure marijuana was probably involved. Yeah. So and we were thinking, what could be a cool name? And he was just like, how about let's see, we're underground, but it's the opposite of the basement, underground attic. And he just came up with it. I was like, you know what? That's good for now. We're going to keep that. And that was 8 years ago. And yeah, so I just kept rolling with it because once I started dropping music under that name, I didn't want to change it.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to be that we bought another space that I could build something in a basement, and the name just stuck. So yeah.
Well, dude, I the first time I ever came into the studio, I got to say the thing that really stuck out to me is it. Like from the pictures online, it's like, oh, all right, this is a dope place. It's got everything you need, and then you come in here and you're like, for me personally, I was like, he has used every inch of this studio as like,
yeah.
like
I always wish I had a little bit more,
Yeah.
50 more, but it is what it is. But
I mean, you got like like the one of the dopest drum sets for a non-drummer that I've ever seen.
yeah, and and I don't ever play it. Yeah, so I definitely wanted to entice people to come in, and that's one of the reasons. Have a really good drum room, because drums are one of the hardest things to record.
Yeah,
hands down. So I wanted a really good drum room with a really good drum kit, and I got hooked up with my buddy Topher Vaughn. Sold me that drum kit for pennies on the dollar, and then I've just built it up from there. So I mean, it started with good shells, and just moved up good shells, and just kept upgrading mics and that kind of thing. So I mean, my drum sound now, people come here just to record drums.
I mean, and I get it, man.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And of course, as every drummer knows, like the hardest part about playing drums is breaking them down and setting them up, and breaking them down and setting them up.
So if guys want to come in here, and everything's on a rack. So we can switch out kicks and snares and stuff pretty easily, cymbals and that kind of thing, but they don't have to bring the whole kit.
Yeah.
Bring your sticks, honestly, is really all you have to bring.
And that's music to every drummer's ears.
Oh, yeah. You mean I don't have to bring anything?
It's like
you don't have to. Well, let me see a kit,
And then you show them.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That'll work.
That'll do, pig.
That'll do, yeah.
That'll do, pig. That'll do. So getting kind of into like your musical upbringing, you're like you've told me, you're really like a bass player. Is kind of where you kind of started out at.
I started as a guitar. I was just obsessed with guitar. I started when I was probably about 12. Lots of Nirvana and lots of Stone Temple Pilots. My dad, he raised me up on Beatles and Led Zeppelin and that kind of stuff. And then once that '90s grunge thing swept the nation, all those bands out of Seattle, Pearl Jam and
Alice in Chains
and Soundgarden, and became obsessed. And I would, even if I was grounded, I didn't care. I was still sitting in my room playing guitar.
Yeah.
So my dad actually gave me this. It was an old, I couldn't even tell you what kind of guitar it was, but the action on it, I think the bridge was broken and torn up. So the action on it might as well have been a slide guitar,
Lap steel.
So yeah, if you can learn 10 chords on this guitar and play them in 10 seconds, that's what he told me, dude. About 3 months later, and he's like, I'll go buy you an electric guitar. I'll go buy you something nice. So and that's when I got my first Telecaster.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and it was all beat up, but man, it was awesome. And it was easy to play, especially after playing that.
Yeah.
That
had the finger strength to really hold down any chords you needed
I
to.
could play anything I wanted. It wasn't, bass guitar didn't come around until I realized that there was a lot more really good guitar players out there, and not enough really good bass players.
Yeah.
So I could kind of take my knowledge of playing guitar and kind of translate it to bass, where it was more melodic rather than just holding down root notes and fifths, basic bass stuff. But I could actually be more melodic with it and play more stuff, and add more to an original band than most bass players could. And we were mostly an original band when we were doing that. And we were together about 6 years. The name was Shutter Dog, so shout out to Shutter Dog.
Yeah, I like it.
So and that was another. We were standing outside and my dog was there, and we were standing next to the Shutter Dog. And then we come around, and it's actually a thing. There's a thing called a Shutter Dog.
Is it like a camera thing? Or?
No, it's a little S that goes like on old houses that would turn, and when you opened up your shutters, the Shutter Dog would hold the shutters open.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and we never knew that until we named it after our dog in the shutter. It was really was not. Yeah, it had nothing to. It was like that's cool, and then that was our symbol, and but good bunch of musicians, and that's when I kind of dove into the bass stuff. So it was really guitar.
And they were like kind of in that grunge metal, or what was it kind of like?
No, it was like a heavy sultry blues. Ooh. Yeah, blues, rock driven blues kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the bass lines were a lot of fun to play. Bass lines drove a lot of those songs. And they let me write a lot of the bass lines to them, which was nice. It wasn't like, you play this.
It's like, hey, man, so I wrote this guitar riff, just play the roots. It's like,
right, yeah.
Like, how about no?
Right, and it was more, and you could do a lot more with four guys when the bass player can play a melodic line and, have the guitar player doing some really cool, effects and leads and stuff like that over top of it. But yeah, we recorded a couple of songs. I still have some of them. Actually, one of them got me into Full Sail. Under a scholarship. It was one that I recorded and mixed and mastered in my old little one-room studio.
Oh, nice.
So they wanted some sort of, because a lot of people drop out of that school.
Yeah.
Once they get about 3 months in, they're like, nope.
Oh, this is like real work.
Yeah. Oh, what? Yeah, what do I have to learn?
And they just for the people listening that may not know, like Full Sail, would you describe it? It's really kind of like a full production, like everything, music, video.
100%. And the campus is absolutely insane. They have some of the best studios in the world. It's in Florida, and a lot of the guys that do a lot of production stuff with Universal and that kind of stuff come out of Full Sail. And because I live in Georgia, they were really like, it's really not worth it unless you're planning on opening up your own thing. You know what I mean? So it's helped, in a lot of ways, like building the studio and that kind of stuff, and just like learning how to talk to clients and understanding enough about the full scale of the music to be able to help them write and help them create their own thing. But yeah, it's full on production, nothing else. I mean, I think my first 3 months were my basic reading, writing, math, and that kind of stuff. And then after that, it was all in Logic, doing DAW stuff, all recording, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, they even had me out on the highway recording cars and shit. Like, yeah, it was
Like the Foley
yeah,
stuff?
doing the Foley and doing stuff for video and all kinds of stuff. So they really did get me prepared.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool spot.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
I remember they were when I was in high school. We had a music tech program, and it was basically just wall to wall of Mackie, desktops and all the stuff with Logic was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And it was really, I thought at the time it was really cool how Full Sail was so integrated with that program. They're like, hey guys, look, if we're trying to foster these kind of creative people,
Right.
and show you there's a way beyond it besides just having to be a musician.
Right. And you still I mean, I went for music production, and I still have to do a lot of everything to make it work, financially to make it work, to be able to do it all the time. I run live sound, I do the recording here, I do mixing and stuff for other people. So I mean, you kind of have.
And now you do podcasts.
And now I do. Now apparently we do podcasts. But yeah, so I mean, you kind of have to dip into everything to really make it work. And I know you know that because
Yeah.
I mean, just being able to be as universal as possible, being able to go do a gig by yourself, that I mean, I can't do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And be able to play for 3 hours. That's a lot. That's a lot of commitment, and that's what a lot of people don't realize is how much time and effort and money of your own that you spend just to play those 3 hours took years.
Yeah,
know?
that old saying. It's like musicians are crazy because they'll drive farther for less money with more expensive equipment to play a gig than anybody. He's like, what do you do
And,
for
yeah,
work?
they'll take $5,000 worth of gear and a $500 shit box
and drive 4 hours.
Yeah, drive 4 hours to get paid $300.
It's like, we're doing good, guys.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're out on the road.
Right. But, any gig, really, I mean, and especially for new struggling musicians, any gig is a good gig. It is. And if you can do that, do it. But I was tired of doing the gigs. I was tired of, and when I was back in the day,
Back in my day.
when I was doing it, man, I couldn't just bring a DI box or a pedal. None of that stuff was really sounded good enough yet to want. So I had the huge bass cab, the huge 15 thing, so you'd be walking up these stairs. I think it was Smith's Old Bar.
Oh, God.
And these
Back in the day before the lift.
Before the lift, and these metal stairs that go straight up, and you're carrying a 100-pound, you got a guitar on your back and a 100-pound, Ampeg.
And you're just like, I hope these stairs hold up.
Well, that and if it rained at all
That week,
you
it's
were gonna
slippery.
die. Yeah, you were gonna die, and it going up, no problem. Coming back down with the stuff, that you're just looking to the pavement. But yeah, so I was done with all that, and I was like, you know what can I do? And that's when I went back to school. So I went back to school late. I graduated in 18. So what can I do to get out of the gigging rut? And that was, okay, well, I'm gonna be a weirdo and build a studio in my basement. I got a studio in my basement.
It's like, come on over to my house. That was when we, I met you over when you were doing some of the sound engineering for our live show.
Yep.
And it was really great because, and I don't want to make it sound like a lot of people oh, bro, hey, you guys were great. If you want to come record, here's my studio. It's like, that happens just as, like a business, you're supposed to network and
Right.
get out there and stuff
Right.
like that. And then I was like, all right, cool, Underground Attic. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm always looking for a dope studio and stuff. And then it's like, yeah, just come over to my house. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's one of those.
Yep, a lot, and a lot of I get that reaction a lot. So a lot of times I don't even mention
Yeah.
where it is, and then they just roll up. But because a lot of times you'll get, so I got a laptop and a microphone.
Yeah.
And,
Got what's the Scarlet,
the little 2-channel. Like you can play your guitar and sing at the same time, bro. So I tried to tour, and I also have a nice professional website that I built. And it's funny, that was like the first thing, after in school, after the math and all that stuff was over.
They went full business.
They went right to, okay, now we're going to design your web page so that everything that you do in school, you can put it on your, so once you're done, you have a full, complete,
You got a whole toolbox.
a whole portfolio done, which was really, really cool. And of course, when it's through school, it's free, but now I got to pay for it, which sucks. But it still brings in enough people, and I can have people pull up actual pictures, and they're like, oh, okay,
It's a real place.
right? Yeah, it's not some weirdo.
Well, I mean, dude, it's like you look around. I know the cameras we're not fancy enough to where they can pan and stuff. But I mean, we got the of course you got your classic foam and stuff like that, but even like the wood blocks that are here for the diffusion of sound, right? Like
Yeah, so the all of these are tuned for the room. And so that's actually like something that one of my buddies helped me look up. And he designed both of the panels, and it's really more for mid-range, high range in the back, and then bass up front, so the kick out front.
yeah.
And those, and I mean, they've been here the whole time, so I'm assuming they're doing what they, they look cool.
They look cool,
Yeah.
and I haven't been mad with the sound of it at
Right.
all.
And keeping drums dialed down is always a hard thing. I'm definitely going to get rid of the hanging baffles and do the whole ceiling. But this stuff on the walls is actually the same stuff that they put in AMC theaters.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's the same sound reduction that they put in AMC theaters. So don't tell me how. I don't want to tell you who I had to kill to get that. But yeah, it's the good stuff, and it looks nice. It's not just it's got something. It's not just fiberglass.
Yeah, because that's one thing about like studios. Like, I mean, I've been in a handful of them around, and one of the things that's always really important is having like a good like environment where it helps induce creativity.
The aesthetic appeal.
Yeah.
And I do get a lot of guys just it's nice down here. It feels creative. They can sit and write if they need to. And it kind of brings that out. And I have, separate vocal booth and that kind of stuff. I can record live in here if I want to, record everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and a lot of vocal artists love the booth because I can just close the doors, I can turn the lights off, and just have the mood lighting in there.
Tap in and just get after it, man.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, one of the best parts, like kind of going off what you're saying earlier, like when you went from doing the basic stuff in the beginning as Full Sail, is then you move into doing things that you have to understand. There's a whole like project that is like not even like for you, like to me. You're an essential part of like the music production program because it's like I can't do all the computer stuff. I don't want to do it.
Right.
Like the same way I don't want to have to.
You need to concentrate on your craft.
Exactly.
Right. And I have to concentrate on that craft. That's why there is a position still for that.
Yeah.
AI. They're coming out with a lot of AI stuff that's great. These automatic mastering programs and even mixing. I know Isotope has got some like automatic mixing, where you can pretty much take a mix that you really like and put it in an algorithm, and they try to mix your song. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
How they want it to work.
What kind of makes it like what based off of just generalizations?
Just general EQs and compressions and that kind of stuff. It kind of picks up off of that, but it's still not the same. See, I also feel like engineers are like that fifth or sixth element that's musician wise, especially if they're a musician.
Yeah.
I've met plenty of engineers that aren't musicians, and they just, there's that gap.
Like the Rick Rubins?
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, I don't even know how to play anything. And I'm just like, dude, stop.
Don't say that out loud.
Yeah, just don't tell people that. And he's just like, I think you should go dap into dap dap. I'm like, dude, stop. Like you can't, Yeah, I've lost my train of thought, but yeah. So I mean,
kind of like you're saying, like they're like when a musician or a group comes into a studio, that sound engineer is like you said, like the fifth, sixth member of the band,
right? Because you put your own. Because every engineer, especially mix engineers and mastering engineers, too, they all put their different flavor on it, and that's why certain people are drawn to certain studios. I like the way that sounds. I like the way the drums sound. I like the way that those guitars sound, whatever it is. And that's why they're drawn to certain studios. And it's that engineer, and it's not only his gear, but how he's using his gear and his ear, like how he thinks it should sound.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get a lot of pushback for that. And sometimes they're like, oh, it's awesome. So I would have never thought of that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's good.
Well, like in my personal experience with you, it's been interesting because it's like I'll try to do way more than I should in the vocal booth. I'm like, let's do like some harmonies, and you're just like, listen, Jared. Not saying you're a bad singer, but you don't need it.
Yeah. Well, if it doesn't need to be there, it doesn't need to be there.
Like, and you don't push back, and you're like, if you really want to do it, but I'm just saying, if you're asking my opinion,
right?
Like, because I've worked with some sound engineers, some recording engineers, and stuff where. Granted, I was a younger band, we were a very young band, and still kind of getting our our sound together. But this guy was really trying to like drive it the way he thought it should be, and we're like, "Whoa, dude!"
Yeah,
like
no,
it's like you're telling me to cut out a part,
right?
Like, play this differently, or do. I'm like, I thought you were just here to like make sure like you capture what we're doing. And
Yeah.
I mean, if it was, I was joking with the band at the time. It was. joking with him, was like, it's like, look, if he was like the recording executive paying for like a record deal and stuff, I might be a little more inclined to listen to him. But it's like, we're paying you, dude.
Yeah. That it doesn't work that way. Are you going to make me a lot of money? Then I'll listen to you. But yeah, and and I try to listen to the band as much as possible. 100%, especially whoever's paying the bill at the end of the day. It's your stuff. But I'll always, and even because I also work at Tree Sound, but even at Tree Sound, they say try not to interject too much. Even when you're going over, different cuts and different takes and that kind of stuff, don't say, unless they ask, which one is your favorite. Let them decide which one's their favorite. And if you don't agree, you don't agree, but at the end of the day, they're paying the bill.
Yeah.
So you let them pick what they want. So I try to listen to the band as much as possible, and I try to, and even when I do, like, I don't know if you haven't dropped Lovesick yet, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
But oh my God, do I want to?
So next one to come is Lovesick, that we just finished up, and that's kind of how that one kind of panned out. Was hey man, it sounds like this is what you're saying, let's change it. It was for love's sake, is what it started as.
And then
I was like,
dude,
I'm not stepping on you. You don't have to, but what if?
It's like the way you sing it, Jared, it sounds like you're sick because you're all like love sick. It's like you could just say love sick, because that probably the pronunciation comes out a little bit better. And then I was like, the idea, I'm like,
and then it kind of turned the song into, because you hadn't quite finished all the lyrics and stuff yet, and then you're like, okay, and then it give you new ideas for lyrics. And that's what I try to do. I try to more push you in a direction where it's going to be a little more hooky and a little more radio friendly,
kind of puppy,
right? A little more poppy and a little more popular kind of genre. But the song was already really good. That's all it needed.
I mean, my favorite part of that is like, not to I don't want to break my arm, pat my own back here, but I love the solo that we captured on there. I mean, like using like the amount of pedals and stuff that you have at your disposal, and I mean like the British wah pedal. Oh
yeah, it's nasty, and that's from 2002. I want to say British wah, and I have not done anything to it except for put batteries in it. Like, I mean, it's
no need.
Well, and I didn't gig out with it or anything. It's always just been something that I've hung on to. And that's another thing. I try to hang on to everything now.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've sold maybe one or two guitars, but I always regret it. Always regret, man, if I had that old telly, that first telly that my dad got me, if I still had that guitar.
Not only for sentimental, but it's like just because I was listening, I saw a thing on the internet about some guitars that are really old. And then it's like, you got to be careful when you buy an old, like a vintage guitar. Like if you take it to somebody, you don't want them to, like when they rework, like do like the neck work.
They want to change.
It's like, don't take too much out of the fretting and stuff like that. Like don't it's like it has a certain, it has a tone or a certain sound that comes with the neck and the wood and the strings and everything like that. It, like every guitar has its own certain like unique fingerprint.
Right, and that's kind of the same thing. Like, even to like kind of get off, like coins, like old coins. They say don't refurbish them, don't clean them, don't polish them, because that's why people buy them. They want the patina, and that's the same thing with guitars. They want that patina, they want the sweat, they want the grittiness. Like if you're buying an old guitar, there's a reason you're buying it.
Yeah.
And you have to have a good luthier that knows how to replace stuff, because stuff has to be fixed on things.
Exactly.
And that's why, I mean, like, I have a great luthier, Jake Brown.
Baby.
Yeah, my boy. He's so fantastic, and he doesn't change anything about he just makes it a little better. The setups are a little better. They play great. And he does not charge me an arm and a leg to do things. But I know if I send him something, like I got an old 96 Les Paul that was the first guitar that I bought with my own money when I was like 14 years old. I mowed grass for it. You know what I mean? Like that was the GoFundMe back then, was go cut your grass. Go cut the grass. Yeah. So that's what I mean. I've literally saved up money off doing yard work and that kind of stuff and bought this guitar. So he knows that is it the most amazing guitar? No, but the sentimental value is there.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to ever change the way it plays, but he just put new pickups and push pulls in it, and it still plays the same, but sounds better now. Like, I mean, just, so it's stuff like that. You know, like,
and isn't it kind of crazy? Like I remember that was a thing kind of back in the early like 2000s, they started coming out with the distressed guitars.
Yeah,
Like-
that was the thing.
Like that was like it's
And
like,
they sold for more than the ones that weren't.
it's like, hey, so we just got
Just
this nice,
play it, dude.
we got this really nice Stratocaster here. Now we're just gonna go throw it in the
gonna
garage
go
and
beat
like
the shit out of
yeah,
it.
literally take it to a sander and it's
Yeah.
like. And I remember like they had the Stevie Ray Vaughan like edition of it, try to like to mimic the ones
Yeah,
that
no,
he had.
his was because he played it so much.
He
dude.
took it everywhere.
Yeah, and he wore the finish off of it.
Like that's the part that was really impressive, and that's why like when you see, I don't see it that much anymore these days. Like, I think people have kind of caught on to that.
The
like,
distressed ones.
yeah.
Well, if I do, it's usually that's because the dude's had that guitar for 20 years.
like
and been playing it, you know.
Willie Nelson's guitar.
Oh yeah.
Like I was about
Yeah.
to say, it's got a part like from where he's been plucking and strumming. It's got a freaking hole in it.
Yeah.
From his like pick over like the 400 years he's been playing.
Yep.
Like that,
And I watched a video where the guy had to repair that hole because it was just getting so bad.
It was going to collapse in on itself.
Yeah. And to think about the pressure on like to fix that guitar.
it's like Willie Nelson is trusting you with his life.
Yeah, pretty much, and you have to, and it can't, the tone can't really change. You just have to. So I mean, and I've learned a lot through Jake, you know, how he does that because my buddy Chris Chapman.
Chapman.
Had a guitar blowout there.
Take it to the house.
Yeah, take it to the house. Had a little guitar, and Jake pretty much rebuilt the whole thing. But he ordered the correct wood and the correct veneer and pieced it together and tried to make the finish match. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can tell that it's been repaired, but it sounded great, plays great, you know. So I mean, and there's some guitars that are worth doing that too to save.
Yeah.
And some you just hang on the wall and say it's
a wall art now.
now it's a story.
It's like, how'd the neck break? Well, this one guy was talking too much shit.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what happened with Chapman. It was
Oh yeah, that's right.
it was a bar fight, is what that was. It was a bar fight, and I ran in there to break it up, and I jumped on, and this dude was way bigger than I was. I probably shouldn't have jumped on him.
Well,
But
you got the jiu-jitsu master.
yeah, well, and I started choking him, and I was like, "Are you going to stop?" And he immediately said, "Yes." So I mean, there was no hesitation, but it was already after we had fallen on top of this guitar, and you know, this was a $4,000 Gibson Hummingbird. It was a nice guitar.
Yeah.
But he had it in a soft case for convenience because he can strap it on his back. I get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it.
Load in, load
I
out
was like,
quick.
yeah. I was like, dude, you got to put that. That's got to be that's a hard shell case guitar. He's like, yeah, I have one for it.
But I
was
just
like,
don't use it.
Yeah, no, well, he is now.
Yeah. It's not, he learned his lesson.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is now. But yeah, so fun stories, fun times at Moonshiners. That's where we met, was Moonshiners.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a good spot. We got a new spot opening up in January. Go ahead and plug that.
Hell yeah.
Right here in Buford, over here by the new Andretti's and all that kind of stuff. So that should be a really hopping spot, I'm hoping. And they're kind of doing the stage a little different, where there's
Really?
going to be a drum riser. Yeah. So it's going to be, so the built-in part is going to be the drum riser part. It's going to be a little bit higher, and then they're going to have the breakdown stage. So when it's DJ or whatnot or open mic nights, they can use the small stage.
Yeah.
And then when it's full band, they can pull out the
They can do that stuff.
the breakaway stage.
I mean, dude, like,
And he's looking at spending like 10 grand on lights. Just lights.
buddy.
Yeah, just lights.
I mean, dude,
So-
he's going to like, I mean, the only other place that kind of like that sounds like it's like the 37th and Main. Like, it's kind of like, I'm not trying to compare them or like, you know, that, but
Well,
it's like,
and 37, I mean, that you'll never get that sound in there in that brick room, especially the original one over
Yeah.
here in Buford. That spot, it just sounds so good, and it can be loud and still sound really good. So we'll see. I'm setting up the sound and doing all the acoustics and the lighting and
Yeah.
everything there. So at least he's let me do it from scratch, whereas I had to come into the Brazelton location and kind of redo.
work around what they already had.
I had to redo all of it because they had those big speakers. They had them flown up in the ceiling.
Oh, no.
And then they got that rafter that goes across,
Yeah.
right? So you couldn't hear the vocals unless you were standing
Right there in
right.
front.
Yeah, well, on the dance floor because they had them like pointed down, right? So everybody's like, I can't hear the vocals.
It's like, go stand in the back.
if they're standing in the back, they couldn't hear anything. So I was bringing in my speakers and putting them on stage and just pushing vocals out through them so people could hear what they were saying. But yeah, so I went up. They rented me a freaking lift, got in there, pulled those things out of the ceiling after who knows how much he paid to have those things flown
Yeah.
up in the ceiling. I was like, it's just not a good spot for him, dude. Sorry.
It's like, it looks cool or like it's got a certain like appeal.
Well, they didn't want them to be in line of sight. I'm like, but your eyes and your ears are in the same
Yeah.
they're on the same level. So you're going to see where the sound's coming from if you want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
It's
And
like you
especially
can't hide the
I
speakers.
got two speakers. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like I got a line array system where, you know, if it was a big line array system up there in the top, that would be something completely different. But I got two, and they're great speakers. They have great stuff there. You know, and not a whole lot of places offer the gear that they have, all the QSE stuff and the rack and all that stuff, and a sound engineer.
Oh yeah.
You know,
that's the thing about it. It's like, man, it's like, that's the cool part of knowing that you do like live sound. And I mean, because what was it? You were with, was it George? Who were you playing? Did an outdoor gig last week or someone? Was it Red?
yeah,
Clay?
that was Georgia Red Clay.
Yeah, like just seeing like, you know, essentially some stages are like you might as well be playing outdoors.
Yeah.
Like you just show up. There's a stage that's 4 inches off the
Yeah,
ground.
yep,
and
that's
it's
it.
just
Yep.
it's a platform.
But it was a big, and I mean, and it was a big courtyard kind of thing, but it sounded good. Like, I mean, I was back at the taco trucks.
Yep.
And it sounded just fine. Well, it's good, guys. You know,
Eating
eating tacos.
It's good. It's good.
Like, what are we paying you for? We're not paying you to eat tacos.
Oh my god! Because I mean, that's the funny part. Like, I bought the Mackie DS or the DL32, the wireless mixer thing.
Yeah, that's what he had. Actually, that's what he was using.
And I was thinking, my initial thought was like, oh, cool, I can do this all by myself. And then I start like really getting into it. I'm like, nope.
Still can't. Like, I mean, it makes it nice for doing your if like you're running in ears.
That's
and that
about
kind of
all
stuff.
I've been able to do.
Well, and a lot. Whoa, hey,
Careful now.
And a lot of guys just buy it so that they know that their in-ear mix is going to be perfect. I know Jonathan Ingram does that.
Yeah.
He runs. I don't know. I think he's got a X32 or something like that he runs just for in-ear mixes.
Yeah.
So no matter where he goes, he doesn't have to rely on the sound guy, and I don't have to worry about dialing in his in-ears.
Yeah,
stuff I
you
can't
guys
hear
handle
anyway.
that. I'll handle front of house.
And then he just dumps me lines, and I can run the front, which makes it nice and easy for me.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to worry about if his drummer can hear what he's saying or not. It's already mixed.
Yeah.
But you know but if you do hire a sound engineer, it makes it good for them. They can just hop on the laptop and
It's like here's the Wi-Fi password for the thing, and like you got full access to it.
Well, and a lot of people think they don't. You have to buy the router too.
Oh yeah, don't forget the router.
I think they just made a new one though that has a router in it.
Yeah.
the new Mackie one.
The new Mackie one that I have, it's if you want to control it, you need to have. It doesn't necessarily need to have like a router hooked up to it. It helps if you want to do more stuff, but it's got its own Wi-Fi that it puts out there.
Okay.
So that way it's like you just flip the antenna up and then you pop it on, and then it's like you put it on the tablet, and it's like you can't look up chords or stuff if you got your tablet. Like
Right.
someone was like, hey, can you?
It can only run off that. Well, and that's kind of how all of them are.
Yeah.
Like even the 32, it doesn't have one built in, but you run it to a Wi-Fi. But if you're hooked up to that, you can't do anything else.
Exactly.
Like that's running that. So.
Yeah, it's nice, man. And the fact that it's got 8 outputs, like that's
sweet.
That's so nice,
Yep.
especially
a lot of them come with 6, and 2 of them are chewed up by
by
your mains.
your main outs, and it's
like, wait a minute. So
like
you
how's
only
my
have
15-piece band gonna work?
Right, you're gonna have 4 people listen. That's it.
Yeah.
Just the drummer and the bass player. That's all you need.
Well, I think the best part about having the in-ear monitors, I played so many gigs and stuff where it's like I'm a big advocate about protecting your ears. Like, I mean,
am too.
like, especially when you're mixing all day, you got to go take let me go take like 30 minutes, let my ears
And stop.
just like heal.
And if you don't, the next day you come down and it's not not just that. My ears do that all the time anyway. It's not just that. It's like you start going kind of like ear blind is what I call it.
Yeah.
Or deaf. It's not really deaf. It's just kind of like you
don't pick up the highs and lows.
Well, and you kind of make yourself think that sounds good because you've listened to it over and over and over again. Then you come down the next day and you haven't,
like, where's the freaking bass line?
Fresh ear. Yeah, like, wait a minute. What is this? It's garbage. But it happens a lot. It happens all the time. So, I mean, I try to, especially when I'm mixing, I try to, like, bounce around and do different songs. It might take me a little bit longer to get mixes out, but I'd rather be mix 1, be almost done, rather than let's get to mix 5, 6, 7. I still have bands and that kind of stuff where it's going to get there anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then they'll think of ideas and want to come back in and retrack stuff and redo stuff, which is fine. That's the beauty of recording.
Yeah.
But I try to mix 1. It already sitting in the car, dude, it's rocking.
Yeah.
You know, so I try to already get it to that point before mastering is even mentioned, you know. What you've heard in my mixes, they come out, you know, they're, of course, you know, there's no limiting and the volume is a little low, but
yeah, I mean,
they come out good.
The best, I mean, like the funny thing about like with mixing and stuff is you always gotta. One of the cool things I've learned, or it's like you know, it's like, oh, this sounds so good. Well, it's like, yeah, you're in a studio with like the nice speakers, the subs, and it's
Right.
got all the sound. You know,
Don't let it fool you.
Don't.
Don't let the $3,000 speakers fool your ears, because they do sound great and they're mixed flat and the room is EQ'd.
Yeah.
So everything sounds great.
But then like the car test and the phone test, you go listen to it on your phone.
Yeah.
Go, and I mean like one dude I was listening to about like when he was talking about how to get his mixes. He brought out those old remember like the Dell like the computers that you said,
Computer speakers.
those old computer
And
speakers.
just hook them up to your headphone.
Yeah,
output.
it's just like it's just and if it sounds good on that,
it's going to sound good anywhere. Yeah, and I try to do that too. I try to bounce it, because I mean, so many people, they're not going to listen to your song in the car, or they're not going to listen to it on a nice stereo. They're going to listen
Yeah.
on their phone.
Yeah.
They're going to listen on their laptop. AirPods.
AirPods
you know,
are great and all, but like you know, it's not the same as those speakers.
Yeah, right. So I mean, and I try to. I mean, these are just $100 headphones that we have. I try to.
Which you sound great, by the way.
Hey, you know, hey, they're top end. I think what sounds great is those preamps we're running. So I'm running a Cranborn preamp on mine, and it might as well plug as many people as we can, right? And then on yours, we're running the Golden Audio. So usually that Golden Audio runs that ribbon mic, and if we really wanted to piss people off, I'd put that ribbon mic in front of you, but I don't want to ruin my ribbon mic.
I mean, dude, that ribbon mic, I fell in love with it because I had actually never recorded with one before, that to my knowledge at least.
It's very honest, but it takes a lot to drive them, you know, and you got to be really careful. You can't put any power, no 48. You can't put any.
Don't put it in your bass drum.
No phantom power. No, you can use them for overheads,
yeah,
because they're far away, but you don't want to be talking into them. You don't want to be
want to be punctuating and popping out.
Which
like
these guys can handle all day long.
Yeah. So like just for some people, like you're talking about with your mic, like it's a straightforward dynamic. Like how would like
this is a condenser.
So
both. Both of these are condensers, which they have to have power. Like I said, I'm running through Golden Age and the Cranborn preamps. This guy is awesome because it's got a little built-on pop filter, and then that one's got one that comes with it, and it's also got a little magnet one that pops on the So I mean, I love the Lewitt stuff. This guy, I obsessed over it. God, this was like the first decent mic that I bought. I mean, it's not anything special, it really isn't, but they have the marketing down, dude. So this is actually built by, it's a neat mic, but it was built by, Mugami did all the wiring, which we all know Mugami cables are some of the best cables, so you can buy.
It's like those are the ones you like, hey, don't leave those on the stage.
And other high-end audio engineers are gonna argue with me, oh, you got to build your own cables, or you got to get your,
why don't you go ahead and hand wind your own pickups while you're at it?
Right, which I don't have time to do or want to do, but Mugami cables are great, and they've done worlds of wonders for me. So Mugami wired it, and then the people that make the blue microphones actually did the actual capsule in it.
Okay, yeah.
Which is really cool. It's really big, but man, the low end that it captures, I mean, I can set it up as a room mic, which you've heard, and it captures even the kick drum really, really nice in here. And then the one you're on is a Lewitt, which I'm absolutely obsessed with Lewitt mics. I got one in my vocal booth with,
love that one.
Which is the 840. What you're talking into now is the 240, which is like their bass model, and it still sounds fantastic on vocals. I mean, I've recorded vocals with it, guitars, done room mic with drums with it.
Yeah.
It's a killer microphone, and they have the engineering down too, where there's no screw on the actual mic. You can just pop that little thing off, and it slides out of the stand. It's great. It's just fantastic. They're just well built.
Because I mean, that's the thing I've like seen a bunch of people talk about as a vocalist, and I mean, it's funny. It's like, can I sing? I believe so. Some people tell me I don't suck, and it's like. But like you don't suck. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it.
You know what?
It's better than the alternative of saying it. If you're trying to suck, you did well.
You sound like ass, bro.
But I mean, I've heard about all these like you know, the microphones that everyone talks about. It's like, oh, dude, you need to get this $3,000 Neiman.
The Neumann stuff. Yeah,
sorry.
the Neiman. That's I just watched that though. Whiplash.
Yeah.
His last name is Neiman.
Yeah.
The guy that plays the drums. So. Neiman. Yeah. No. The Neumann stuff is fantastic. Eventually, I'll probably get some of the 93s and stuff, some of the less expensive ones. But you know, the Lewitt stuff really, like, especially for new age stuff, like it really does matter. It comes with its own power amp and everything. You can kind of switch back and forth from what the mic is doing. The upper end ones, like the 840s and the 940s, have tubes built right into them, so you
Which
get that.
I love. I just love the look of that.
The look and
Which is stupid to say, but it's like,
a lot of people will call it gimmicky.
Yeah.
You know, and because of the way it looks really cool, and the tube lights up inside. But it's also a tube mic, and that why not show the tube on the inside? You know.
I mean, like you see the guys with the supercharged engines with the
right. You're right. Show it off, man.
Whip it out.
Yeah, right. So and that's cool because you can change the tubes in them, and on the actual power amp you can give it more tube sound or more just raw condenser. You know,
Yeah.
so you can get a lot of things out of it.
Yeah, that's the thing about with like kind of what you're saying about, like, you know, it's not my art form. It's like when it comes to like understanding and stuff like this, I just see like I'm the consumer that just sees, ooh, that looks cool.
It's right. It's super nerdy, and to learn. I got to go back and learn, you know, like what frequencies are best for this mic, and like, but I do, and all that information when you buy a new microphone, even without, I think I paid about $400 for that one for the Lewitt, for the less expensive Lewitt.
Yeah.
And it even comes, he's like, when you're micing guitars, do it like this or try it like this.
Gives you kind of some manufacturer.
Yeah, because this is the way it sounds best in this mic is what we've
Yeah.
come up, and 9 times out of 10, and they're right. You know, they built the thing, you know what I mean?
It's like, try it like this because that's how we built it for.
Right. So I mean, it's like, so they even tell you, 45-degree angle and 6 inches off the cab, and and try it that way. And so far, I've gotten just excellent results.
Well, and then one of my favorite things I've ever heard, it's like music. It's like you can't really do anything wrong. It's like, it's just, did you mean to do it, or did it sound good?
Right.
'Cause,
yeah,
I mean,
there is no. Well, I mean,
there's a quote unquote right way.
It's jazz, bro.
It's jazz.
Yeah, I put some jazz in there. If you call it jazz, people think it's cool.
Well, I mean, I remember when they were doing the Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yeah.
and they were in, I think it was like in the opening the first half of the movie, they were in the studio, and they were like, well, okay, you guys, let's try to put a microphone in a tin can, and then, like, just trying.
Did a bunch of really cool stuff, and I've tried some stuff like that, and typically doesn't hit. It doesn't hit the final. But I mean, there's always. I always say there's never like a wrong way to do something, and there's no such thing as a bad sounding microphone. There are certain microphones that are good for certain things, and there are some that aren't. And there are some that are going to sound better on certain things, and some that won't. So,
like
so I keep all, even if it's $100 57, man. Those things I have them on my snare drums. They're great, and they're great, and they're cheap. So if somebody smacks the shit out of my $100 my 57,
it's like, I hope your drumstick's okay.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, right. You can run over those things with a car. But yeah, so I mean, and some really cool stuff, like Stone Temple Pilots did a thing where I think it was Dead and Bloated. It was on one of I think it was their second album. Anyways, the opening song, and you can hear that telephony kind of I am. Well, and he's actually, that's a guitar, and he turned up the volume on the guitar.
And he's screaming into the pickups.
Yeah, and he's yelling into the pickups. So it was like really cool recording stuff like that. And actually, after I found that out, I was like, "Oh, Kimball, we got to try that shit."
Yeah.
And we put it on a track, and it sounds
Shout out
pretty
to
cool.
Kimball, buddy.
Yeah, Kimball Crane. And we tried it, and it's in there. It's not real audible, but it's in one of the mixes, kind of like a tribute. Because shout out to Scott Weiland. Yeah. So that was the first concert that I ever went to. My dad took me to.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was at the Omni. It was like the last concert in the Omni before it got torn down.
So sad.
Yeah, and it was I think it was 1996. I want to say. I still got the ticket stub, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I was 11 years old. My dad. I'm aging myself now. That's good. I was 11 years old. My dad took me, and we sat on like the 10th row, and Local H opened up, and then STP, and they played for almost 2 hours. They played a whole acoustic set that like dropped out of the ceiling. Oh. Never seen. I'm 11, dude. I'm just like, oh, this was like right when I started playing guitar, and and really getting into all that kind of music. and man, it was loud. Whoa, dude, it was loud. I remember that for sure. And it's so funny, like, I thought that was loud, and my dad was he was in his 30s at that. My dad had me. He was young. He was a young dad. Just 2 weeks ago, I took him to go see Marvelous 3. He loves Marvelous 3. Went to the Tabernacle. We had to leave early because it was just too loud for him, dude. He's getting up in his upper 60s now. And yeah, he was just, man, I gave him my earplugs and everything. He was just like hunched over. Like I was like,
this
is
great.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
The first couple songs, he was like, I can do it. And then after that, I even like gave him earplugs and he was like, dude, I just can't. But it was loud.
Yeah.
Like dude, we were up on the top and that's where that line array is just
it's
like
pointing
blasting.
right at you.
Dude, it's loud. But I was enjoying it with my earplugs in.
Yeah.
It was loud.
Well, I feel like nowadays, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like I feel like it's just like there's so much more power coming out of the speakers now per like.
Well, yeah. Well, now you're not running a whole bunch of speakers off one, or not one amp, but off amps. And they're sharing that power. Now these speakers are coming powered, so they already individually have power amps built into them.
I mean, I got the like when I do like some of my shows and stuff where it's just kind of like the stripped down like bar shows. I use two Harbinger the tower speakers.
Yeah,
and
that's all you need.
They got two 8-inch subs. They got all the little array like speakers,
especially for to get just enough to get your low ends out of your acoustic and your vocal.
Yeah, I mean honestly, like you don't need to have really like more than a kick mic and like some overheads maybe for like your in ears and stuff.
Oh, you're using that with full band.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean it's because I got two of them, so it's like they say 1,000 watts.
Yeah, I guess for smaller places.
Yeah, like 150, 200 people max shows. Like it's just loud enough. And then I mean, dude, it's crazy. I remember I saw John Mayer at the MGM Grand in Vegas, and I was blown away because the front of his like they had that the giant drum rack or the platform. Mm-hmm. The drummer's there. I think he had like a pretty normal like nothing like no Neil Peart style kit. Yeah. But just a normal kit. But then across like he had like 15 different like amps, and I was like, dude, those are like 15 watts. Like they're tiny.
Yeah. Well, you mic them.
That's it. Like you don't need it.
You mic them and you let the system do the rest.
You let the system do the work.
You find and that's why I'm really obsessed with. Like eventually I'll have a Kemper in here, but I use a lot of the modelers and that kind of stuff, the Slate modelers and that kind of stuff. They're great. They're fantastic for tracking. But once I go back and I like to reamp stuff, so I'll run it through the Marshall or the PV or whatever, and get that really big guitar sound along with what we did, with the modelers. But that's what I like. I like to get little, even like 15 amp heads. Like I got a Bugera 20 in there. This is a small room. I don't need 100 watt. I have some, but I have them. But I don't need a 100 watt head to blast out for a gig. I'm just getting that tone.
Well, man, I would love to go back to like. Was it I'm drawing a blank, Shea Stadium and like with the Beatles when they did that performance there?
Oh, could you imagine if you could hear that performance?
Like that's what I really want to know is like what was it like, because they were back then they had like the speakers like you were talking about, and then it's like amps.
Well, and they said on playing it because my dad was a
huge Beatles fan.
Beatle fanatic. He's got the original White Album on vinyl, bro. I don't even know how much it's worth. And like
don't eBay that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. And I told him he was like, I was thinking about selling these. I was like, you don't.
No, that's the heirloom now.
Yeah, and he's right. And he's got like old like Pink Floyd stuff. It's just all kinds of stuff. He has dumbed it down, but he's got a full like 3 shelf that's packed with
the good stuff.
Excellent stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that Shea Stadium, there was no line arrays that concept hadn't even really come out where you have to drown out the crowd.
Yeah, that was the thing I was about to say is like that. The thing that stuck out to me is like I want to be in a band that when you're coming up, you're like I want to be in the world's best band. I want to be in a band that's so popular that the fans are screaming so loud you can't even hear yourself. Right.
Well, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't hear anything on stage.
They're just like...
And to go back, it's funny because I was watching an interview with Tom Morello. And before Rage had really started, and somebody was asking him about, why he doesn't cut his strings. He's always got them flat. He's like, what do you think, you're in the baddest band in the world or something? And so he started cutting his strings.
Yeah.
And then when he realized that he was in the baddest band in the world, he let those strings go. He did not cut his strings anymore. He's like, now I am in the
It's
baddest
like I can do
band in the
whatever the
world.
fuck I want.
Yep. And that became his staple, those strings bouncing around.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was really just because he didn't have anything at that to cut them with, you know?
Yeah.
You restring them and you leave them.
It's like, and especially when you play that much, it's like you get.
You're just going to, yeah, right. You're just going to change them in a week anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I like that better than I've seen some guys that will like curl it up at the end, so it's like these like little like looks like curls.
Well, yeah,
I'm like,
no.
hey man, not gonna say anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
I dug the Tom Morello thing. When I first saw it, I was like, nah, dude, he don't give a fuck. Dude, he don't care. He don't care.
He's like, listen to me. I want to make this crowd go nuts. I want to take my input out and go.
Yeah, right, dude. And he was one of the first ones that had his switch cut completely instead of going back and forth between different pickups. He would just cut it on and off.
So you could do it.
So you
Yeah.
go ba 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 ba. That's what he was doing. Make it sound like a freaking
Scratch it,
like he's scratching it, which is completely innovative, and nobody had ever done it. And you know, they did their second album. I think it was their second album. Yeah, I want to say it was. I don't think it was the first one. Maybe it was the first one.
Yeah.
The one with bomb track and stuff on it. They did that at what was it? Sun City. Sound City. That's where now Dave Grohl has that board in his house.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah.
it's like, and you know who has that board?
Yep. My man crush.
Dude,
If I could just hang out with that dude for a little while.
Bro, I would love it. Well, here's a good question. Out of all the studios you've ever heard of, or like, you know, what would it be like if you could get like a full album done with any band? Doesn't really matter the band. We can follow that up with the second question. But like, what's one of the number one studios you just want to go in and just kind of like just actually work in?
Well, man, there for
Easy question, I
Yeah,
know.
well, there for the longest time it was Tree Sound.
Yeah.
Because of such the iconic bands that had rolled through there, Collective Soul tracked in there, Elton John's tracked in there, Outkast did all of Stankonia in there.
I was about to say.
You know, so and what was it? Love Below, where he did a video in that room that I work in, back there in the dungeon or in the cave is what they call it. The dungeon was the original studio that Outkast tracked in before they came to Tree Sound. Was their kind of thing. Goody Mob and all those guys came out of the dungeon.
Yeah.
And then once, so I mean, so Tree Sound, and now that I've been able to run now, I don't know, like Abbey Road Studios. Maybe,
Yeah, one of the big,
you know,
like,
you might as well, you know, what I can't remember the name of the studio, but whatever studio they tracked Sledgehammer in.
Oh yeah, you've told me many times about
that. That is the best sounding mix. Period. Like mix, recording, everything, because there's so much going on,
and you can hear everything.
and it's perfect, and the vocals are amazing, and just like it's yeah. So it's iconic, and that's even Howard Stern asked Harry Styles before it. Like, if you haven't seen the Harry Styles version of that, it's on Howard Stern.
Kills it.
And
Absolutely murders
it. Is,
it.
Yeah, I should know. I've showed you. It is
Yeah.
absolutely to do that, to make it sound like that live. Kudos. You know?
Ugh. And they make it look so easy.
Oh yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, you want to just play? Okay.
Yeah, his musicians are just top notch. Yeah. So I mean, and he that's what he was talking about. He was saying that, you know, I got to sit in that studio. He's like, will you play that song in this? He's like, I got to sit there in the studio that song was recorded in and listen to how it sounded in there. So, you know, like you were saying, everything sounds better in the actual studio. Could you imagine what that song sounds like in the studio it was actually mixed in? So yeah.
Dude, I mean, and that's the thing about it. Like, you know, the average person, I feel like these days, they don't intentionally, they're just ignorant of how much goes into making any individual track. I mean, there's the band, like, and the musicians themselves, and all the work that goes into just being good enough to make that recording.
Right.
But then it's like we're talking about the mics, the amps, the guitars, everything else. Like, it's like that's one of the
room,
cool,
the sound of the room. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's everything. There's a lot of different factors, and I'm still battling. I still battle with making stuff sound the way I want it to sound.
Yeah.
You know, because you go back and you listen to this stuff. You know, of course, it was recorded in a multi-million-dollar studio. You know, with the best preamps and the best mics. You know, but stuff has come along so much that you can really get stuff done in a smaller space and make it sound just as good. You really can't. Not just as good.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know, especially to trained ears and that kind of stuff. it's not the same. It's not unless you're doing it in a big studio on a big SSL board. Like at Tree Sound, they got this big $900,000 SSL board. Of course, it sounds good. It you know.
It's
But
like, is a Ferrari fast, or is it? It's
right,
like, yeah, it was built to be.
right, exactly, and it's starting to come around because there for a long time, especially 2010 and kind of on, like even people coming into Tree Sound, all they wanted was a microphone and a computer and put some plugins on it, and that was it. So I mean, that SSL was just sitting there for a long time. But now people, so now people are starting to realize, oh, that's what we need.
That's got the sauce.
And the full band, not the MIDI instruments and that kind of stuff. They're starting to figure out, okay, if we want to sound like what these tracks used to sound like, you have to pay for that, and you have to use the right stuff.
Well, I'm a huge I definitely, if the thing about Tree Sounds that I love is just like the picture they have of the live room in there.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, dude.
Pianos in there. Like, so I mean, like Elton John's pianos and like all of Collective Soul's piano stuff was done in that, like the big December and all that, like when they first were blowing up. Because they're from here, they're from Atlanta.
Yep.
So that room is iconic.
I just have to say, it's like with Collective Soul. I remember I was working with a buddy that was paying to go into Jan Smith Studios, and I saw this group of guys walking out, and I was like, wait a second, that guy. I was like, is that fucking Collective Soul? Yeah. And then it's like, and she's like, oh yeah, they're doing their documentary. I was like,
yep.
I was like,
Very cool.
Be cool, Jared.
Yeah.
Be cool, be
Yep.
cool. Don't be
Yep.
like, hi.
Don't be a fanboy. You can't. Well, and especially,
Or run up to the go, yeah.
and it's so funny is because like they, especially at Tree Sound, they got a lot of younger kids that are just coming out of school or dropped out of everything and just want to intern and that kind of stuff. And they keep going over, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't post pictures, you can't do that. And I'm just like sitting here back, of course you can't. Like these people don't want to be bothered. That's why they're here. They want to be hidden. They don't want to be, they're here to do their art. They're here to do their work.
Yeah.
So it's like, what if somebody was going to your job that you go to every single day and, snapping pictures and shit in your face? They don't want that. So it's really discreet, and that's what I love about it. It's kind of hidden. Like, it's crazy. If you drive by there, you would never know it's there.
Yeah.
You never know it's there.
I mean, dude, like another studio down there, Chase Park. Are you familiar with them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've recorded some stuff with good old Trombley Bay back in the day. And I mean, I love like their live room and stuff. But I mean, I'm just such like, if I could have a perfect world where I could go to any studio anytime with no cost and money's not an object, I would just have like one of those giant live rooms. Because I mean, just even putting just like a dope amp in the middle of a live room
you don't have to do anything to it.
Like,
right.
I mean, you can speak on this. It's like if you do that kind of stuff, and it's like, yeah, you want me to mix it?
Yeah.
Or want to see me do it again?
Right. Well, and pull up the volume. Yeah, that's about it. Well, and that's what's great about working on that big SSL board there is, and you think about, it's about $1,000 a song to track there, but it's done when it's done. When you're done tracking it, it is already, the engineers there are so good that it's already mixed and ready for mastering pretty much once it's tracked.
Yeah.
Because what you're hearing in your headphones is pretty much what is going down on tape. And I say tape, it's digital, but we got a reel to reel too. If you want to pay the real money,
Bubby.
Yeah, but I mean, even finding an engineer that can cut tape nowadays.
I mean,
there's not many.
And it's kind of like one of the. I mean, Foo Fighters did which album was it? It was the Echoes.
The one at his house. One they did at his house on tape.
They did everything on tape, and I was just like, I mean.
But think when you get to a point where you're just so bored,
you got to try to make it more
right. Let's do this. We haven't done this yet, and we have nothing but time to do this in my house. You know what I mean? Like, why not? I would. I mean, if I had the money, all the money, and I mean, he had Butch there with him.
Yeah, but I was about to say.
And you got Butch Veg, helping you.
Yeah, I'll
why
help you with
not?
this project.
He knows how to cut tape, dude. He was like one of the, it's so funny. He was the drummer for Garbage.
Yeah.
And to get to even be in a band that's even still known today, to anything, and they didn't have a whole lot of hits. I mean, they had some. I thought they were great. I loved Garbage. But and then to turn around and be like, oh yeah, I've worked on Nevermind, and
By the way.
yeah, and he did all the Rage stuff. He did all the Rage tracks, and I think he did all that stuff.
That's what's so insane about guys like Butch. Like, not only being the musicians that they were and are still. I don't want to say like they're not, but like just the fact that they've worked. Like that's the thing with like Rick Rubin. Like as a guy that he's one of the few people. Like earlier we were talking like I don't even play any instruments, and he's just. The way I remember seeing him talk about it is like, no, I just listened to music nonstop. Like I listened to everything and just found his way that he liked what I liked.
That's just to pay somebody and who knows what you have to pay him.
Oh God.
I mean, you just pay him to sit in the room. I don't really understand, but I mean, he's gotten to sit. I mean, I don't know if you saw that Hulu thing that he did with Paul McCartney, where he just sat there and like, you would never know that he has no idea like how to play a guitar or play a piano. He's talking to one of the best musicians who's ever lived,
greatest songwriter of all time, possibly.
And they're sitting there and they're hashing out stuff like, they've been in the room for years together.
Yeah.
But because his understanding and knowledge of music is astronomical, but he thinks of it in a different way. What sounds good, and he thinks of it in an outsider's way. And I think that's why people hire him.
Yeah,
is he doesn't think of it like a musician. He thinks of it as a listener.
Yeah, Which I mean, a lot of that's the thing is sometimes with musicians they need that because they, one of the things that's always kind of deterred me from getting into the prog rock or math rock and stuff is it's like I'm like, dude, is it impressive? Like Tool, great example. Tool fucking annihilates my brain when I listen to their stuff.
Right. Well, yeah. And there's so many people that were like, oh, everything's in 4/4 unless you count it like a nerd. I was like, no, it's not. Have you ever listened? Have you ever listened to Tool? I'm like, have you ever listened to Tool ever? Like any of their songs? I mean, it's of course, some of their mainstream stuff was 4/4, but everything else, and you don't. And they do it so well, you don't realize that that's what they're doing.
That's the thing I was about to say.
And that's what makes them so special.
They sneak it in there, and you're just like,
because it still is relatable content. The lyrics are still singable. It's not, they're nerding out on the music, but they're putting it into pop culture where nobody can really do that. There's not a whole lot of people who can do that and do it well.
Yeah, dude. Well, let me ask you this. So, what is your opinion on how the music industry is today? Do you think it's better than it was in the 90s and before, and all the because some people want to say the 60s through the 90s was kind of the golden
you mean as far as content that's coming out?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like content coming out is not the same because it takes less to make it sound really good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you can use which is fine because there, I mean, with the auto-tune stuff. Even Post Malone, he comes out and he's like, I can't sing. He's very open about it. He's like, I can't sing. No, that's auto-tune. And he's like, people even ask him, hey, where'd you learn how to sing? I can't sing, and those artists I really respect.
Because, when they're honest.
Yeah, right. Because he's a great songwriter, but back in the day, if you couldn't sing it, then you had an artist to do that for you, and you were just the songwriter of the song, and you had the artist perform the song that you wrote, right?
Yeah.
So now any songwriter can perform, I just watched a whole documentary on Juice WRLD. Man, without autotune on that dude, he doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
He doesn't. But his lyrics are so powerful, and so many people related to what he was saying. Put some autotune on it, and it sounds great. Even on his live shows, he would be talking into the mic, and you can hear the autotune effects. So, I mean, as far as quality, I don't know. It's just different, and I don't want to dog on new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I still think it takes a hell of a lot of talent to get noticed.
Yeah.
It really does. But then again, I feel like it takes a lot less talent nowadays to make a really good song.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to say is versus nowadays, I mean, you can run into so many people that are either just guitar players or they're like, oh yeah, I like to write songs, singer-songwriters and stuff. And like you said, we're not going to shit on them. It's like, dude, you're doing something that you love. That's the best part about it. However, I do think
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Right.
I feel like nowadays it's like in my experience, as I'm 29 years old now, and when I was 13, I was all into Nirvana, and you had all the stuff coming out in the early 2000s, and I mean there's a lot of good stuff, but it was kind of the tail end of the 90s rock and kind of that new kind of.
And nowadays you'll get glimpses of that with with newer bands. but it's still just like a like Greta Van Fleet.
Led Zeppelin
It's-
2.0.
yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, but I love what they're doing, and I love that they're writing songs like that.
Yeah.
You know, so who cares if you sound like that band?
like,
That's
oh,
awesome.
how-
I love that band. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I love Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So why not sound like them? Because they can't sound like them anymore. They're just unable to.
Yeah.
But yeah,
100%.
so I mean, it's tough. The quality, it's a lot of quantity now too.
Well, yeah.
which
Because I was going to say, do you think that's the thing about with so many people
you
being
can
able
just
to
record something in your basement, put it out.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like it should pass through a couple different hands, and there should be more people involved in your artwork than just you.
Yeah.
Because you might think something's awesome, but you know it might not be.
Yeah.
And you need a really good friend to be like, hey man, what if we change this? What if we did this? Somebody that you trust and that you know that actually knows what they're talking
Like
about.
when Metallica, what was it? That wasn't the Black Album. There was an album that they did where they did all the mixing and stuff too on it, I believe.
They tried to mix the loudest album. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to do the loudest out, and because of them, now we're fighting this sound war. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard of that. Yeah.
For those who might not know, give them like a quick rundown.
So this was so the sound war is, and so now you can just like everybody thinks that louder is better. It's not. You start putting limiters on your masters and that kind of stuff and trying to turn it up really, really loud, you lose a lot of the dynamic in the music, especially if it's live instrumentation music, you know. Some of the MIDI stuff, it doesn't affect as much. But if it's like a hardcore, like a metal album or something that you record live drums to and live guitars and that kind of stuff, they crank this limiter on there and they try to make it as loud as possible so that when their song comes on the radio, it's louder than the one that was before, because then it sounds better, and it doesn't. It doesn't sound better. So. So now Spotify and YouTube and really by doing that, because they did that, these places are putting caps on stuff and it's ruining shit.
Yeah,
it
it's like
is.
all that work you put into that mix.
Right, and if it doesn't fit their standards, then they put their own limiter on it and it sounds like garbage. So really what I try to do is I try to have if you do any kind of audio engineering, your last thing should be hitting in between -8 and -11 LUFS, you know, which is like the final output, the overall volume of everything, right?
Yeah.
So I try to put it out between there so that Spotify, Apple Music, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't throw up a red flag and, oh, this is too loud, because they want this equality. They want everybody to be equal.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, it was really annoying because you'd have to turn up your radio up and down because people were mixing and mastering things differently.
Yeah, I do remember that, kind of just riding in the like and just listen to a song, and the next thing you know, that the next song comes on and it's just like, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Right. So so that doesn't happen, they put this pretty much, they're fighting the loudness, which they're kind of putting a cap and they're saying it can only be this loud, which I love. Where now it keeps everybody. So now I mix, and if you know that, and if you know the standards, then you can mix to that, and it'll still sound just as fantastic. Just if you want to hear more of it, turn your volume up in your car. You know, you should leave it up to the listener, not force stuff. It's like, what was the Apple phone that put the YouTube album on?
Oh my God.
Like, it was like, hey, we're gonna force this YouTube album on you, and like, so it like
That didn't backfire at all.
Yeah, dude. And so like, even when your music stopped playing, the YouTube album would just start playing like immediately after. I'm like, this, you know what, Apple, you fucked up on this one.
Like, why?
You
Like,
couldn't have put Rage on there.
well, it's like, I mean, like, I don't know. Part of it's just like, oh, you're forcing me to listen to it. Now I really don't want to listen
Now
to
I
it.
don't. Yeah, now I really hate that.
I didn't have an opinion about it, but now I do.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you got Bono, who's like so pro, like, life and people, and stop the poverty and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but dude, do you know what Apple does? I'm not going to go into it, man, but they got ties with China that just, you know what I mean, that you would probably be mad at what they're doing to kids over there to make your iPhone that you fucking forced people to listen to your album to. I'm not gonna go too deep in that because I don't. Bono, I'm sorry, bro. I love you, man.
You do good stuff every now and then.
Yeah, you did good stuff in the 80s.
Oh man, it's like, I think because like as an industry nowadays, that's the thing I'm trying to crack the code on, is like continue to grow as a songwriter and a musician. It's like that's just like a part of the constant self development.
You have to.
Yeah.
And you got to be thinking about it all the time.
And then like partnering with people that are always like pushing, like you're always like talking about the next piece of equipment you're buying. You're like, I want to get this super dope thing, and I'm like,
Yep.
and you'll nerd out for one, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm excited now.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't even know what it is, but I'm excited for you.
And then I also do get that thing that I've been talking about for months. And then you're super excited about like a kid at Christmas. Like, oh, it's here. Like, you're just as excited as I am. But yeah, so I mean, and anything that I nerd out about that is just going to be better for people who come in here and record. And the more people that come in here and record and track, the more I'm like, oh, well, I do need this. I don't need that. You know, I
Yeah.
can kind of pick and choose on where to put my money.
Yeah.
You know,
Because I mean, that's the hardest part. Like when you're getting into like, you know,
what do I buy?
yeah, like what do you buy for a
Yeah.
recording studio? What are you recording?
Yeah. Right.
Like, you know, it's
Right.
like, do you want to limit yourself to, oh, well, I only record these types of bands? And it's like, as a business model, you don't really want to limit yourself.
Right. Well,
I mean, well, actually, Jared, let me tell you something about that.
once you get to a certain point. Okay, so the studio here has been open for 6 years. When I first opened, it was anybody and everybody, man. I had to get people in here, had to get content out, had to, you know, just even kind of pictures and that kind of stuff, you know, just to get people's intrigue.
Yeah, it's
into
like,
the
oh, there's a
yeah,
studio here.
Right. And it's not garbage. You know, it's not a garbage studio. I can actually go in there and I feel like I'm in a studio and not in some dude's house where his kids are running around and shit. Which that does happen. But yeah, so I mean, it. I lost my train of thought again. You know, it just. I don't know where I was going with that.
Where were we at, Steve?
Accepting any and all clients.
Yeah, the clients.
Oh, clientele. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So any and all. Thank you. Glenny Balls.
But yeah, it's like you got to a point where it's like, okay, at the beginning.
Right. So the beginning, anybody and everybody, and I got a lot of hip hop guys, a lot, you know, and you know, a lot of guys that, oh, I'm gonna bring 6 people with me. I'm like, no,
It's not an entourage.
Yeah, right. How many people are recording? Oh, just me. No, unless they're tracking something. No, you're not. And little by little was doing. I think the first full band I did was the Woofs, which
The Woofs.
which cool funk band, man. And that was like the full first band. First album that wasn't hip hop was Max Eve's Plethora, which is a prog rock. And he had so many different musicians in here doing different stuff. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to kind of drift away from the hip hop. I still have a few hip hop guys that I still work with that, a lot of hip hop guys are flaky. They'll book something and not show up. So I'd have to start charging them ahead of time and that kind of stuff. And I just don't like doing that.
Yeah.
But so at first it was anybody and everybody. Now it's more I can kind of pick and choose who I want in here, which is really nice. But especially when it's in your own house, you have to be careful.
Oh, naturally,
you know,
yeah.
with that kind of thing. So anybody that would book through the website turned out to be usually pretty legit.
Yeah.
But if they try to book through social media, I would always go back and look at their Facebook and, you know, see like,
It's
okay,
like, hey, how come you only have 3 posts in the last 4 years?
right. Or, hey, let me hear some of this other stuff that you've been working on. I want to hear the other stuff that you released. Oh, I don't have any yet. Okay, well, now I can say, well, I want that. I want to hear other stuff that you've tracked somewhere else, or this is not a first-time studio anymore.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. You know, like I said, there at first, I didn't care. I needed the money. I had to get people in here. But now I'm like, unless you have something that I can listen to and I'm going to enjoy working on, I really don't touch it.
Well, that's fair. And I mean, it's like, you know, that's the cool part about having like it be in your place. Like, it's like, this is your business. It's like, I mean,
Well, and I want the quality that's going out now. You know, there's a standard, you
Yeah.
know, that I have to hit every single time now because people have heard the stuff that comes out of here. I can't drop something that's, you know,
yeah, it reflects bad on like, oh, you went to that place that's recorded like that?
right.
It's like, no, but that's what we wanted. And it's like, but it sounds bad. And it's like, yeah.
And I don't want it shared, right? And I don't want, even if I didn't share it myself, I don't want somebody like, yeah, I went to the underground attic and this is the garbage that I put out.
Yeah, because I mean, that's one thing. It's like, you know, always try to, you know, put like social media is just like, it's such a huge part of the industry today where it's like, you know, the best part about this studio, in my opinion, is that you can get super, super great mixes. You can get a ton of different, like, you know, instruments recorded in here. You got all the mics and stuff that you need to record tons of stuff.
Right, and when I'm doing hip hop, I'm using one mic, and not all this stuff that I've spent all this time collecting. And
Yeah.
you know, because like I mean, just to put it in perspective, I have 14 mics on my drum kit.
Alone. Yeah.
Alone, and those mics don't go anywhere. I don't even use those mics for anything else. Those mics stay exactly where they are at all times, and I know exactly what kind of sounds I'm going to get out of those mics. But when I have hip hop guys in here, like I said, I got 2 or 3 now that I love their stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's that more of that old school. I don't do mumble rap. I don't do it. So
don't come in here on some sands.
right?
And,
And that's what I like. That's why I ask. I want to hear some stuff that you've already done, and let's see what it's got. See what it's like. But I got a couple guys that are more old school, more that artistic, telling a storyteller kind of hip hop, that kind of stuff that I grew up on. The Outkast, Goody Mob, all that kind of stuff, what I grew up on. And their stuff is great because they don't ask me to write their beats. I can do beats. I don't like to do the beats. Send me beats, man.
well, and it's like, doesn't it go with like the sending, like, or the like when people come in with beats and stuff? It's just straight track. You can't really mix that much with it.
Well, no, the guys that know what they're doing,
I was about to say,
will come in with stem outs.
Okay.
So they'll come in with the full stem. They'll buy the stems, and
So that
that's
way
how
they
I
can-
know if you really
You know what
wanna-
you're doing.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, and I want to fuck with you or not. Like, because if you bring me an MP3 that you want to record over, that's karaoke, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can do that yourself with a laptop and a microphone.
God, yeah,
But yeah, so and then they'll ask me to do stuff that would be in a mix. Hey, can you turn the hi-hat down? No, dude, it's one track.
You have one track,
Right.
it's
So
like-
no, this is
yeah.
all it is, and then it's going to be your vocal on top of that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's that's the funny part that people don't take into consideration when they're coming in. And it's like, like I said, there's like, everyone has their preferences and taste and like hip hop and stuff. I mean, I'll bump some stuff here and there just like, cause I'm like, oh, I fuck with this.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like that art about it, like about getting that stuff put together is like an insane in its own right. But it's like, when it comes, like you're saying, where you had to get people in here to do like videos, I've shot a video in here. Like, we've had a couple people shoot videos in studio. But like the social media part of it, and like the number one thing that kills me is that some people have some really dope videos out there, but then they just have garbage sound.
The audio, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the best part about, like, it's like when we did the live performance at Moonshiners, it's like,
It's not off your phone.
it's not off your phone,
Right.
first off.
Well, and
even though it worked for Oliver
it's-
Anthony, which
it's-
I'm like,
It's still, yeah. I guess that was just off his phone. But there was no band. There's no band. It's
True.
just him. It's just him singing. That's going to sound a lot better on a phone. It's the drums is what will kill a mix on a phone. But yeah, and even that, like, we weren't using the best mics or anything like that, but everything was mic'd individually so that I could go back in the mix and at least separate stuff out, make everything
Exactly.
audible. But yeah, so I mean, and I've done a couple bands like that live at Moonshiners, and it's a lot of fun, but it's still not studio fun because
Yeah.
once I start tracking, that's it.
it's like, you buy it,
Yeah.
don't break a string, or don't kick your
through-
drum
yeah.
head through, Ethan.
Yeah, kick through the drum head.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
funny. And
Well,
that was when we were tracking. too,
Yeah,
and,
yeah, it was.
That's right.
So happy about it.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, you turned, or like when the snare mic kept falling off. And,
oh yeah,
like,
yeah. So I just triggered the very faint snare. Yeah, it triggered T with a T.
yeah,
I
triggered,
gotta-
guys.
Yeah, triggered guys. Don't get triggered.
But I mean, like
Um,
that kind of stuff. I mean, like one of the things that I think was really interesting about how people recorded back in the day is, with the tape and stuff, they only had so much tape. They only had so much that they could use in a lot of aspects. So the band had to come in there and be on it, like right off the get go.
Right. So you had to be well rehearsed, and from what I understand, Tom Petty was like one of the best at that. Where you just come in and he was just ready to record.
It's like, oh, that first take.
got all my guys. Yeah, that's it. We got it. Nailed it. But yeah, so everybody has to play their part. There is no going back like digital days now where you can just, I messed up in this one part and I go back and just re-record that one little part and plug it
Yeah.
in. To do that with tape is a lot of cutting and a lot of mess. So you just might as well just re-record the whole thing.
Yeah, it's at that point. He's like, go ahead and let's just take that from the start.
It's so much. Yeah, it's actually going to be cheaper for you just to re-record the whole song. But what I really like, so of course, I'm like I said, Beatles nut. But they started a lot of the kind of the multi-tracking thing because they only had a four-track recorder. So what they would do is they would record on 4 tracks, whatever they're recording, the drums or whatever they're recording, and then they would pretty much compress those down and put them on 1 track, and then they have 3 more tracks to record.
Yeah, and then do it again and again.
And then do it again. So they're the first ones to like really like get that multi-track sound. And if you go back and listen to some of the old stuff that hasn't been remastered,
Mm-hmm.
If you were to turn off one speaker, you're going to miss complete parts. I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever noticed that. Like the first time I noticed that was in an old car that I had, and one of the speakers
It
went
went
out.
out.
Yeah, and I was like, where did that part go? Where did that harmony go? Where's the main vocal? Because he was really Martin. Last name's Martin. I can't remember his first name. He was the producer. He was the fifth Beatle.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, so he literally, like, it's so funny. He would pan stuff so hard. He was the first one to kind of make stereo, so it's not a mono thing anymore.
Yeah.
So he would pan stuff so hard that if you didn't have a right speaker, if you only had one speaker, you would miss complete parts. So somebody would be soloing and that kind of stuff, and he would have it panned so hard it wasn't in this speaker at all. So if that speaker was dead, you just don't get it.
Oh, dude. Well, and it nowadays you even have like the 3D like kind of mixing now, where you can have like if you have the speakers for it and stuff.
The Atmos, you're talking about.
Yeah,
the
the
Atmos.
Atmos.
Yeah,
And-
and that's like 20 something speakers.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. You have to have a big spot for it, and you have to have the room has to be EQ'd for it and built for it, and the speakers have to be strategically placed.
Yeah.
But you're looking at like mixing stuff for movies.
yeah.
So like making a bird chirp over here. But it's weird. You can like close your eyes and
It sounds like it's behind
it's
you
right
to the
there.
left.
Yeah, exactly. You know exactly where that is coming from.
Or like with the panning and stuff, like that's one of the best parts about it. Like I remember, I want to say it's in the air tonight with Phil Collins, that the mega drum fill.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to it, you can hear it go from left to right, like like it's like you're
Right.
sitting right there, and like having that in the room feeling is one of the most.
Well, and I argue on that, on the point of how to mix or how to pan drums. 'Cause
Yeah.
Of course they're like, oh, it's up to you when you're at school. It's up to you how you want to pan it. I've never been a drummer, so I've always been somebody who is watching the drums. So I pan my drums as I'm looking at them, not as I'm sitting behind them. Which, a lot of drummers have asked, why do you do that? It's like, well, you're thinking that way because you're a drummer and you want the snare, you want the hi-hat.
Over to the left,
Yeah,
yeah.
you want the hi-hat where you're hitting the hi-hat, and you hear it on the other side. It sounds weird to you. But you got to listen. When people are watching you, that's where they hear the hi-hat, as they hear it to the right, not to the left.
Yeah.
So, all my stuff, a lot of drummers will be like, it's backwards, but honestly, in the mix, in my opinion, when they roll, it sounds like I'm watching a roll. I'm
Yeah.
not doing the roll myself.
There's just like those kind of things, or even like getting into like the I think we went on a tangent one time. I was in here, I was asking about like reverb stuff, and you're like,
Yeah.
like dude, there's just so many levels that go into the audio engineer, the mixing part of it, that it blows my mind that people just like they don't understand. And I'm like,
Right.
as a musician that's
So-
trying to record, I don't understand half of it.
Well, I know a lot of people just think of reverb as it's an effect. Like, oh, it's an effect to add to the guitar. That's but it's not. It's space. So any kind of reverb that's ever tracked is recorded in some sort of space. So it at one point, to match that, it was at one point recorded in a hall or recorded in a garage or wherever it was to get that ambience. So if you notice if you stand in a coat closet and you scream, you don't get a whole lot of echo. But if you stand in the garage and scream, it sounds completely different.
Yeah.
So that's all they're doing, and those things are time. It's just a time-based effect, and if you use it incorrectly, you can really screw up a mix.
Yeah.
But if you use it right, you can really enhance a mix. So it's a really fickle thing. And reverb, think of your panning as your left to right, right? So if you're panning stuff, it's going to come out the left speaker, the right speaker. Reverb is more like front to back.
Yeah.
So the less reverb on something, the more up here it sounds.
Yeah.
And if I'm speaking into the room, even though this room is treated, you still hear the room, what
Yeah.
the room sounds like. But if I get up on the mic, now you just hear what my voice sounds like, which sounds terrible. Sounds like I need a cigarette.
So come on now, buddy.
I do need another way. Can we pause and Can we pause and
Absolutely.
one of these? Yeah. I'm having fun though.
Yeah, dude.
And let's do like another 20, 30 minutes or
Yeah,
so if you
buddy.
want to.
Perfect on me.
All right, let me pause the audio too. Yeah. And maybe have a smoke.
Can't hurt. Yeah, probably do like a hot takes. It's very good.
Hey, Chris.
Alrighty. I think at this point, one of the things that one of the fun things with the internet, it's like, I want to ask you, audio engineer, what are your audio engineer hot takes? Like one of the things I've always gone back and forth is like heard like analog versus digital. Do you have like what are your like controversial like are you going to make people mad with your opinion on it?
Well, no, probably not, because I think nowadays you have to have both.
Yeah.
You like, so when I track everything is going into a digital board and it's being recorded digitally, but I use a lot of analog stuff. So your preamps and that kind of thing, super important.
Yeah.
And that's something that I learned. I was just using the preamps. I have an X32. I was just using the Midas preamps that are in it. They sound great. I was getting what I needed out of it, but once you start really diving into preamps and mics and how you choose your mics, that's when you really start getting away from, I don't know, like analog stuff to me will always sound better, I think. And that's why I go back and I mic stuff up after we track guitars. I go back and mic cabs and reamp guitars and that kind of stuff, because you just don't get that out of a digital interface. You just don't. You don't. You don't get the sound of the room. You don't get the sound of the mics. You don't get the sound of the pre's. Like all of that stuff working together is what makes, the color, or that color that is really your mix, and that really how your studio sounds is combining all of those things. But now in today's era, like, first of all, I wouldn't even know where to buy tape.
Yeah.
Like,
Is RCA still the like?
I mean,
was it
like there are a few companies I know that Tree Sound orders through that are like overseas. To find somebody that can cut and edit tape, like who does that anymore? Because now it's just so easy, and the stuff is getting so good. Now, back when it first started coming out, of course I would say, but the digital stuff is getting so good.
Yeah.
That it's keeping up and soon will surpass, I think, but it hasn't yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, you really need both. So I mean, like, I wouldn't say, oh, you have to do analog, you have to do digital. Digital's super easy and it sounds great. But you can add analog texture to your digital recordings that will make them stand out over other people's stuff. And that's really collecting stuff. I'm 40. So I've been collecting stuff since I was 50. I still got a guitar back there that I bought when I was 15. So it's really just not getting rid of anything. And like I said, when I went, there's no such thing as a bad sounding mic. If it's $100, just learn how to use that mic. My first microphone setup was a bunch of $100 mics. It's a 58, it's a 57, a couple of the Sennheisers, the 609s, the little guitar, ones, and then you kind of upgrade to even my first condenser mic was $100. It was a little Audio Technica 2020. And all of them sound different. All of them sound great in their own way. You just have to, have to kind of mix everything.
You got to find the way that it's like, all right,
It's
I want
good
this
for
kind of
you.
sound.
Yeah. And people, especially engineers, will argue until they're blue in the face on how to do something. When there is no, I wouldn't say, hey, this is how you do this, because there isn't. Here are some parameters on how.
If you want this, you do X, Y, and you get Z.
Right, exactly. And it's really more, I hate the use your ears, bro. Just use your ears. It's not always that simple, but sometimes it is. So, record something with one microphone going through one preamp, or wherever you're recording, even if it's direct digital, and use a preamp that's in the box, that's a plug-in, whatever you can afford, and listen to it. Okay, that's not the sound I'm going for. Move the mic back and forth. Microphone placement is huge.
Yeah. Because you think about the diaphragm, like, of the microphone, and it's like, or the plumb, or
So just the way I think about it is, the closer you are to that cab, the more low end you're going to get out of it. If you pull it back, it's going to have more of a thinner sound. So it's just that proximity effect. So you can hear my low end now, and now it's more high. So the further away you move the microphone is going to change the sound dramatically, not just a little bit, dramatically. So it's really just learning that kind of stuff and playing with that kind of stuff. And, still now, when I go back and I reamp guitars, I have 3 mics on there, but I dial in one at a time.
Yeah.
So I go back, okay, would this sound good just by itself?
Yeah, it's almost like it's a puzzle piece in itself. I've seen, I did a recording session for an EP up in Franklin, Tennessee. at not the Dark Horse studio, but they had like
Okay.
a
Or the Dark Horse.
yeah, Dark Horse, the studio is awesome. We didn't get the chance to go there, but we went and got to be the band for the end of the year project for their
Oh, cool.
sound recording thing. Friend of my uncle had somebody that he's like, hey, if you know any rock bands, he's like, oh, my buddy, like his nephew's got a band, and
Yeah.
we got to go do it, and some top quality sound engineers and stuff. But what was like so crazy to me is like when you talk about doing the drums, like they had so many mics, and I was just blown away. I was like, you're gonna use it's a straight 4-piece set, like you know, it's like
drums are tricky.
well, it was because of the live room. They had a very like big brick wood floors, all the like the sound
Yeah,
treating.
very open. So you got to close mic a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what was crazy is they had all these different room mics and like kind of these certain like they knew the room obviously really well.
Right.
But they had the room mics in these spots that were like, oh, this is going to pick up this, that, and the other.
Right. You can place, and we do the same thing at Tree. We like to capture reverb. We'll open this one door and set a mic out in this big long hallway.
Oh, yeah.
And all that's doing is reverb, and you can't get that reverb anywhere else but Tree Sound. You know, and I've been wanting to do more experiments and that kind of stuff, like opening up doors and setting a mic out in the garage or something like that, doing something weird.
I'm there if you ever
But
need
yeah,
something.
but I'm so you know, more. It took me, you know, a good long while. I want to say a couple years just to get the drums sounding like I do now. So if I go back and, you know, maybe with more mics and that kind of thing, but I still have my core sound and start adding some stuff to it. But I got them sounding so good now, I don't want to change anything. It's kind of where I'm sitting now. But,
Yeah. Well, and one thing I wanted to ask you about is, so like when we were talking about the loudness wars and stuff, and how on streaming and stuff these days, like streaming seems to be like you have to kind of, would you say you have to kind of mix and master for streaming platforms nowadays, or like
yeah. So well, the mix is the mix.
Yeah.
So which is great. So, but you have to mix, you have to master. So I master two typically if the artist wants it. I'll master one that if they want to print a vinyl or print a CD or something like that, then that's one master, and then there's a different master for Spotify and that kind of stuff, where they all follow pretty much the same algorithm. But it's mastered differently so that they don't mess with it, so that they don't put their own limiter or whatever on it. But on an album, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So if you're printing to vinyl, or you know, which is now a thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's coming-
It's coming
it's-
back around to where people want vinyls, where it's like that collectible thing, man. Like there is nothing like. I mean, I remember. I mean, I never really had vinyls. I'm not that old, but I had the CDs where you could open up the CD and you see the artwork and you can read all the lyrics. And,
Yeah.
you know, like I mean, there's something about that, and having the physical thing in your hand that I love.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, I had like talking about the Beatles and stuff. I mean, growing up in the like when I was living with my parents, like I had the like I had these 8 vinyls that I were just like, it was Steve Miller Band, The Joker. It had Janis Joplin's Cheap Thrill, or not Cheap Trick. That's a whole different band, but
Cheap Thrill.
yeah,
Cheap Thrill.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's like,
The Janice. Yeah. I think
but I mean, like you talk about the artwork of it. I mean, even
well, and you'd open it up and there'd be like inserts in there
With
like, I
lyrics.
mean, yeah. Well, and the White Album, the Beatles' White Album came with a headshot of each Beatle.
yeah,
And now, like, I mean, to find one with all 4 still in there, I have a replica that has all 4 in it. That are, you know, of course, it's not the real thing, but you know, because one of them was always missing, so someone would pick up their
I wanna
favorite
take John.
and put them on
Yeah.
the wall or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, you would, and it would have full like album size headshots of each Beatle in the inserts. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, just cool stuff. And I think like Alice Cooper and Ozzy, like they would have like he had a rubber bat. Ozzy had a rubber bat in one of his, you know, yeah, like
God
it
love
would just come with like cool stuff and like fake blood, and
Yeah.
you know, just, and they don't do that, and that was part of the art and part of the how you got to know the artist,
Yeah.
and why you liked that artist was because of their album and like holding the album and reading the album.
yeah. I mean, it's a whole aesthetic thing where it's just like, yeah, man, like I have this piece of like art that they made, but then they went the extra mile to actually put in like, you know, creativity into the product or the product that you're going to
Right.
physically
I mean,
hold.
think about the artwork like on like Sgt. Pepper.
Oh,
I
God,
mean, the
yeah.
artwork in that just on the cover.
It's like, who's in
'Cause-
this? Like, that's Gandhi. the
Yeah,
guy, so,
you can look and see that it's not just a group of people. It's all these famous people that they've put in on this art. It's so cool. you
yeah,
know?
and I feel like that's lost nowadays, especially with now everything's shrunk down to what's able to fit on your phone.
You're right.
Like, I mean,
And I mean, Max did a full CD, like hard copy of stuff, and he's really one of the only ones that have, because he had been doing this album for years. Like, he'd written this album for a couple of years, and it took him almost 15 months to record it.
Wow.
Like, he was in here for like 3 days a week, 4 days a week for 15 months. He paid my mortgage for a while.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Shout out to Max. But he went all out on it, and he's the same way. That nostalgia of like but he can hold it in his hand. This is something that I've done.
Yeah.
Instead of just something that's on the internet that you can listen to if you can convince somebody to listen to it.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of music? Oh, it's prog rock. What is that?
Well, and that's
you
like the crazy part about it is like we're going like even like with his like. I remember I had a gentleman reach out to me about he was one of those guys that, hey, can you do the music for me? And, you know, he wanted to do a genre of music that wasn't necessarily my wheelhouse.
Right.
And, you know, but the thing is, he sent me a CD. He was an older guy. Like, I think he was in his late 70s. And he was just like, can I mail you a CD?
Yeah.
And I'm just in the back of my head, can't you just
yeah,
email
no.
it? No, he didn't know how. I mean,
and I've had one of my first early clients, Walter. Shout out to Walter. He was like, he wanted everything on CD, and I still have a burner.
Yeah.
Like, I can still burn CD. And this guy just finished up, David Swinson. He wants to come by and get a CD before it drops. He wants a CD,
Yeah.
a physical CD, and that's fine, man. I love that, and I love the fact that I still do have that
The
capability.
option,
Yeah, sure, I'll burn you a CD if that's. But do you know that I can just send you this and you could burn it yourself? But a lot now, like new laptops, they don't even have. I have an external burner. It's an external thing. It's not
when
even,
he sent me that guy that sent me the CD of like his like he kind of like was singing the melodies and stuff, and it was all him just singing into his laptop microphone.
That's it.
Like that was all I got from, and I was
that's a
like,
nightmare.
I mean, I was like, you know, he's a nice enough guy. I
Yeah.
just I
tough.
passed it along to a friend that kind of was more in the genre. I don't know where it went, but the crazy part is that when he sent me the CD, I'm like, where the fuck am I going to play it? I don't have a CD player in my car. I
Right.
don't have it on my laptop. I'm like. So, I mean, I see offers from like some of the distribution companies. Like DistroKid is the one I use a lot of times.
Yeah, that's the one I push.
Yeah.
is DistroKid. They're great.
They put it on everything for you. They don't really
And
hamstring you on
and they have
anything.
something. What's awesome is as long as the people that you're working, because I'm a member of DistroKid,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're a member of DistroKid and everybody that you're working with is a member of DistroKid, as album sales go out, it automatically, okay, I want 10% to go to the producer,
You can,
10%
like,
to go
siphon
to
it
the
out to
drummer,
people,
yeah,
yeah.
and it just automatically hits their bank account, and that's really, really cool. But, you know, nowadays it's not album sales, so it's streams, and you don't get shit off streams. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I push, go to live shows.
Go to live shows.
That's the way, that's how bands are earning a living. Live shows and merch. If you really like the band, go buy their hat. Go buy a
hat.
shirt.
Even a fucking sticker.
Anything, because I mean, it helps so much, and you got to imagine how much goes into just first of all, just gas up the van. You know, I do a lot of work with Clay Page. He's got his own van, his own trailer, he's got everything, but I mean, to get to that point,
Yeah.
you know, he was on American Idol in 2019, and that's kind of what pushed him over, you know, to where he could really, you know, he does his own Southbound Music Festival every single year. He puts
Yep.
on that. He's got vendors out there, and you know, you can go out there and eat, and it's all day right by the lake. Like it's so badass to see somebody. He's just doing it himself.
Yeah.
He just says, "Screw it, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to have this group of people that I know I can count on."
And that comes from a lifetime of like being in the industry, with like, being in your
and
area.
and learning that, and learning who to surround yourself with.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do anything for him, honestly. Like if he called me up and be like, "Hey man, I have to have you. Like, you know, I have to have you run this show." You know, and I had to cancel something else. I would probably do that for him, because he is so gung ho, and he's just surrounded himself around the right guys. Every show he puts on, he has these Nashville songwriters that come out, and these are songs that you hear on the radio, and these are the writers that are singing the songs. It's just so intimate and so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. But yeah, so I mean, that, like, if you're going to do it, you just got to say screw it, and this is what I mean. Who
Just
knows?
keep trying
He
until-
lives in that van.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people, you know, like they don't understand. And I mean, I've had, a couple projects and stuff where it's like we wrote some really great things and, things just didn't pan out and, they had to eventually make that choice. It's like, well, hey, man, I'm getting married.
I got to do this.
I got to do this, and there's no shame. And it's like, hey, man, life comes at you. You got to make your decisions. But it's like,
I was very fortunate to marry somebody who understood that I was going to do it either way.
Shout out to Mrs. O'Neill.
Yeah. Thank you, baby. Thank you, Cindy. But she is so fantastic. She actually found this house, and she was like, "Babe, you could," because when we bought the house, there was nothing in this. It was just a big open concrete basement. There's nothing in here. I put every wall, every stitch of. I mean, you can tell that a professional did not do the mudding in this place. So
that's what gives the room its unique sound.
That's how I saved my money, and it's got me all over. I mean, there's back behind that there's blood on the wall where I cut myself when I was, and I just left it. I was like, there's literally blood, sweat, and tears in this
room. Yeah.
So and she was the one that found this place because we were looking for a new spot, and she was like, baby, you could just be completely separate and build this whole thing exactly how you want it, and so she was the one that did that.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a partner that's willing to do that, there's just no way. Like in this industry, there's just no way because they don't understand it. They don't understand that you're going to do it whether they're upset about it or not. And of course, it hasn't been easy. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
Opening my own business.
You need a special type of lady to go
right
along with you
to
on
be
that.
like, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
You seem like you're really going to do it.
I mean, I hope so. That sounds insane. You want to go back to school for music that you've already been playing your whole life. You want to go back to school and then you want to build a studio in the basement. And you're going to have people. How are you going to get people there you're like, hey, to come in and record? How are you going to do that? And I just kept telling her, just trust me. Just trust me. Just trust me. And she did. And, and there was that first year when I first opened up, because I was bartending at the time, and I was so over it that they let me go. I've been in that same spot bartending for 12 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you just, you're not as friendly as you used to be. Like, no shit. This is awful. Like, coming in and trying to tell the people the same fucking thing every day. It's just, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not dogging on bartenders. I did it for a long time. I love bartending. It was a lot of fun.
You just knew you were done.
It was over.
Yeah.
It was over at that point. And so the first year or so, the only income was the studio. And I'm trying to convince people to come in here. And I got, Walter and Max, the first couple of guys, and the Woofs.
The Woofs.
They really kind of pushed it over the top. But that's because Walter was willing to come in here at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and track, So, but yeah. So, I mean, it really takes that other person that's going to understand, or they're just going to get pissed off because they don't get it. They don't get it.
It's like, why are you in the basement hanging out with a bunch of dudes, and why don't you come hang out with me?
And then when I show her something that you've tracked down here, after 6 years of building and the sound quality at first to now, she's like, oh my God.
Sounds like...
Yeah. She's like, that sounds like a professional.
The best compliment I ever got on any piece of music I ever tracked was I had a friend that we went to high school together, and we'd done some EPs and stuff here and there, and then I recorded something and I sent it to her. It's like, hey, I'm trying to get some opinions on the song. Like, what do you kind of
honest
think?
opinion?
Like, just like, hey, man, like, don't be afraid to hold back. Like, would you listen to this? And she said, oh my God, that sounds like a real band on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, no, I thought you were like just like recording something in your like, and it was like, no, I didn't record in my basement. I went to Brad's basement.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. So it's this other dude's this weirdo with a studio in his basement. Well, and like I've shown people like weddings and that kind of stuff after. Well, and this was. I've DJ'd a couple of my family's weddings. Yeah. And then at the end of the night, I'll play some stuff that I've recorded down here. They're like, I can't tell the difference between
that and the radio.
Well, good.
Yeah,
good.
That's what I was hoping for.
So I'm still paying those
student loans.
Those full sale student loans. Come on, Biden.
Come on, man. Can you keep one promise, like, please?
Yeah, just one, man.
But I mean, like, so kind of like one of the questions I always want to ask, like when I talk to anyone that's in the music like industry and stuff, it's like, 'cause one of the things I've been having trouble is like explaining to other musicians I want to work with, like that don't, like you said, like Max, he was one of those guys that could come in at 12 in the afternoon. As long as you were available, he was available, kind of thing. Because I mean, I'm in that position. I'm still, in the launching stages of being a full time, where it's like, hey, I got to wake up every day and go get something music done to get some business.
Every day.
A lot of it's cover work,
And if you're not thinking like that every day, you're not doing it.
You're not doing it.
You're not doing it right.
Like, but one of the things I've been struggling with is like kind of like, you know, it's weird. And as a almost 30-year-old, like the stuff I grew up on, I was already on the classic rock stuff. My parents were like, yours is like, hey, here's the Beatles, here's Van Halen,
Right.
here's Led Zeppelin, here's
Yeah, my dad was blasting Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Oh, my mom, like, she went to a Bon Jovi concert, and I was like, Dad, are you worried? He's like, nah. She's got, like, she's, like, in the back row, so there's no way. But what was super crazy is, like, I remember trying to put, like, these new set lists together to kind of still kind of get to the new people that are coming out, the new 18 to 21-year-old people,
Right.
which were born in, you know, literally 2000 and,
Right.
you know, do
These
math,
people
Jay.
that, I had somebody ID me the other day, and
No offense, but really?
yeah, no, seriously, because I think it's their job. I mean,
Yeah, that's
And I
fair.
was like, and then when I flashed it, I was like, you didn't even look, and they were like, oh no, I saw the 19. I was like, man, fuck you, dude. like so, yeah. So now they can just look at what century you
Yeah.
were born. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, so like it's tough, but you still go out and like even when I'm like playing music in between bands and that kind of stuff, like is the journey and those sing along songs that are never gonna die.
Yeah.
Even the 22-year-olds are still singing that shit.
Yeah.
They're still loving that stuff, and that's what gets people kind of going is those songs still.
Yeah, because I had a couple gigs where I had, you know, if any artist that's out there playing for money, you know, you got to play cover shows, or you got to play cover
Have to,
songs.
yeah.
And I mean, you know, you got to
Even
try
the
to
big guys still, like Zach Brown. Dude hit 90%, not 90%. I'd say, 15% of his show is covers. Like,
Yeah.
He plays cover songs and he kills.
Oh, dude,
those
the Devil
cover
Went Down to
songs.
Georgia that he did.
Dude, he does Metallica and
What?
stuff that is just, I mean, almost, you're like, dude.
You never expect that from him.
No! And you're sitting there, you're like thinking you're going to a country show, and these dudes come out fucking blasting Metallica and doing it right and doing it really well.
Yeah.
So I mean, the country nowadays it's getting better,
Yeah.
but there for a long time it was just
Bro country.
Well, yeah, and just like pop music with a twang.
Yeah, it's like I don't think
uh,
you can call yourself country if you have an 808 drum in the background.
Exactly. You
It's like,
can't
nope.
you can't do country, and just because you're singing it country
Yeah.
don't mean it doesn't mean it's country.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge 90s country. Like the old school country, I love it.
Yeah.
Cash, all that stuff's great, love it. But man, I was at like Garth Brooks and Clint Black and Black Hawk.
Yeah.
Like dude, the harmonies that Black Hawk puts on, like just insane. Like, so I'm a 90s country. That's all I listened to for a long time. Like when I was
Yeah.
10, 11,
It's like it had that grit and stuff to it, and a lot of that was just like, you know, part of it. But what's crazy nowadays is when I ask like someone that, you know, might be at the shows that's like 21, you know, just first time really getting into the bar scene legally.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like they're like, hey, do you know this song? And it's like a band or something I haven't heard of. I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I'm sorry, man, but what songs you listen to on the radio? I'm like, I don't really listen to the radio.
Right. Or when it's so funny, like I'm now that like weird old man that goes around telling Gen Zers that their Nirvana shirt is cool. Like,
Yeah, it's like-
hey, I like your shirt. Like
Yeah, I love this brand.
what's your favorite song? They can't name you a fucking song.
Yeah.
That's but I mean, when I remember getting in trouble and sent home because I wore one of my dad's Little Feet. Can you name a Little Feet song? No. I couldn't at the time either, but the shirt was badass. Had this chick on it with her titties hanging out, and like, yeah. And I'm like in like 5th grade, 6th grade, and they're like, no, you can't wear that. And I was like, can I turn it inside out? When you turn it inside out, you could still see the. So I got sent home, and my dad didn't know that I took it out of his closet.
He was like, oh, this is a cool looking
Cool
shirt.
shirt, yeah. I didn't really
Put it together.
yeah, but it wasn't all, and then my friends would think I was cool, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, so I got sent home that day, and my dad didn't even know that I had took his shirt out of his wardrobe.
And you're like, Brad, why'd you do that?
Because look at her titties.
It's like,
Dad.
come on, Dad. Like,
But then, could he be really mad?
No.
Could he really be mad? He was probably proud. That's probably a proud
He had
dad
to-
moment.
he had
I'm
to-
gonna be
had to
honest
be-
with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. If my kid got sent home, even in today's world, God, it would be a whole thing. But if my kid, 10-year-old, got sent home because he was wearing a shirt with a girl with titties hanging out, and that's why he got sent home. I
And you
mean,
didn't
I would be
know.
like, man, you can't do that. But like, behind his back, I'd be like, I'd be fist bumping
It's like,
somebody.
listen, don't tell your mom.
Yeah.
The good stuff.
No, honestly, my wife would be like, "Oh my God, yeah,
I love that band too.
Yeah,
I bought your father that shirt.
He's not confused. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're really going for.
But
He's totally confused.
Yeah, I mean, and like, kind of like thinking about like how like when I asked that person like, what do you listen to on the radio? Maybe I could play some of that to you, like and she literally was like, I don't listen to the radio. I just listen to streams and Spotify and like all this stuff.
And it's so funny is because. Well, I listen to the radio.
Yeah.
And that's because in my Jeep, it doesn't have a great sound system in it. But because now that 99X is back on, I just pretty much just leave it. I don't want to hook something up and plug something up and find some, especially if I'm just driving to go get the kids.
Yeah.
So if I'm just driving down the street, like I'll just turn on the radio, and flip it back and forth between 97.1 and 99X, like I did back in the day, But it's, I don't know. I can't. I'm honestly surprised that radio's still even a thing.
Yeah, it's hanging in there. I mean, there's like
which is crazy because
Yeah.
people still do listen to the morning talk shows and all that. Even with the podcasts and all that kind of stuff that people are doing, the morning shows are so unscripted and so raw. There is no turning off the mic. There is no editing. There's no cutting stuff.
At best, you
live.
have
It's
best you
live.
have the dump button that
Right.
gives you what 15 seconds.
Right, and that's it. Which is what got some of the guys at 96 Rock in trouble back in the day.
Yes.
They said some fairly racist remark. I think it was racist. I think it was like racist.
So
remarks.
overall,
Or,
just
yeah.
completely
not something you should say. And it just went dead. And then the same song played for like 3 days until they got new people in there. Anyway, yeah.
But I
So-
mean, like in the day's world like that, it's like you think like on my end, I'm thinking about it's like, all right, cool. I got a Brad, a dope engineer with a dope studio. I can get there and get a really great sound. There's like that part. I feel like I got enough like people in my reserve of like I can call on these people to get something recorded and get my idea out.
And also something I want to throw out is that when you track here, that it's not going anywhere. So like first of all, nothing gets released without the artist saying it's done.
Yeah.
Second of all, I'll mix something 100 goddamn times until you're
happy with
fucking
it.
happy with it.
Yeah.
And third of all, there is no, hey, I lost your stuff, bro. Because that happened to me. Like, so when I was in Shutterdog, we rented out a space with an engineer. I'm not going to name him. With an engineer over at Vision Studios. And we recorded 3 songs. And not only did we pay him like we paid him like $1,500, but I also went in there because it was a brand new studio and helped him kind of like soundproof and all that kind of stuff. Like, so I worked for a couple of 8-hour days in there to help him build his studio. And because I wanted the experience, one,
For this place.
and
yeah.
I wanted to help pay for our recordings. And I didn't get one thing really that was worth anything. He sent us a couple mixes. All of it didn't matter what you were listening to. It sounded like it came out of a phone. Even if you were listening to on a nice stereo, it was just the mix was terrible. And then a couple months later, was about a 3-week period. We were trying to like get him to mix stuff a little differently,
It's
and
like,
then
hey man, try this way.
and then all of a sudden his computer got stolen. And if you went in this place, it's double barricaded doors, everything's locked. There's no way you can get in or out of there unless you let somebody in there. Like, it's a very secure place. It was a pretty sketchy place, but still,
Yeah.
there's no way in and out of there unless you know somebody's coming in and out of there.
Yeah.
And yes, and he had a little Mac Mini, and apparently, I think he sold it. But
And
yeah,
forgot to like take the stuff
yeah,
off.
right. I think he sold it and forgot to dump everything onto another. But everything that I do here gets backed up 3 different places. If my computer crashes,
Yeah.
I can still get everybody's stuff, even if I have to get a brand new computer.
Yeah.
So nothing gets lost.
Yeah.
Is I never ever, the last thing I ever want to tell an artist is like, hey, all that 8 hours worth of fucking work that we just did, I don't have any of it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to redo that.
Yeah, that's different than telling, hey, okay, a mix got fucked up, I had to start over.
Got to start remixing.
Yeah,
it.
right. So, because when I start mixing, I start in a separate session. So I have the original files. So if I completely screw this shit up, I can at least go back to the original file
Oh, yeah.
and get the original that the artist did,
Yeah.
not me.
Well, that's that's one thing I've heard from other studios I've worked with, where it's like granted, like they have just so many artists that come in there, and just saving all the stuff, especially if you're working on a full like 12-song album or something like that.
It can get overwhelming.
There's a lot of stuff, and then it's like once you like get it mastered and done, and it's like, all right, they give it to you, and then it's like, hey, we got like 150 other artists that are coming in, throughout the year. we can't just hold on to this. You know, they give you like
Right.
maybe like a flash drive or like
Right.
you download it to
there-
it.
and no, I mean, I have artists contacting me even from 3-4 years ago. Hey, can I get this, the raw stems? I want to do this to it, you know, because I mean, you may want to make a remix of something. You may want to
Do a
dump
remaster.
remaster, or dump it off to a DJ. Like I've even had, like Kimball wanted, he had it was one of his songs that a DJ wanted to put like a beat to it and play it, and I sent him all the raw files so that he could do his own mix and that kind of stuff. And I don't ever want to tell somebody, no, I don't have that. You know, like why wouldn't you have that? And that's my fucking job, is to have that.
Yeah.
It's weird. It keeps cutting off. But yeah, so that's my job. And so I never ever want to tell somebody. So like when something is done and released in my, like once I say it's done and released and it's paid for and it's finished and we've agreed that it's finished and it's done, it still goes on a separate hard drive that doesn't ever get touched. So if, hey man, I need just the kick drum. I want just the kick drum off the track that we did 5 years ago. I love the way that kick drum sound. Can you send me just that kick drum?
Just to
I
use
can
it,
do that.
yeah.
You know, and I won't ever tell somebody, no, I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
That's for me, in my as a professional, that's unexcused. That's not a good excuse. You can never have an excuse. I don't have that.
Yeah.
You do have that. You recorded it. You should always have that. So no matter what, if you give somebody a finished product of something, I can still go back. Hey, I want. Hey, all of a sudden, this super famous producer wants to remix this song. He wants all the original stuff that you
Yeah.
didn't touch. Okay, you're gonna pay me for it.
Yeah.
if that's what's going on. But I have it. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and that's another, just another outlet for money for me.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
definitely, it's like, why limit yourself?
And I'll never tell you, no, I don't have that.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, I guess in the wrapping up question, it's like if you were going to, if you met someone out in the world, like doing mixing, or just like you just at like one of the Moonshiner gigs, and they were a super talented artist, and they were like, oh yeah, I got it, like I got 12 songs ready to go record. Like, what would be your biggest like rundown on, like, if you were going to coach someone or give advice on like somebody in today's industry, how would you tell them to approach like the whole studio like experience?
be as prepared as possible. So if you have a band or whatever that's playing along with you, they all need to know their parts before they go in.
Yeah.
And play to a fucking click track.
Drummers,
That'll be the first thing. Bass players.
bass players,
Too.
rhythm section.
Absolutely. Rhythm section's got to stick. So, I mean, yeah, so I mean the first piece of advice is be prepared for it, because they're going to ask you for everything. They're going to ask you for, okay, you have 12 songs, I want the BPMs and the key signatures to all 12 songs.
Yes.
If we have to autocorrect or pitch something, I want to know exactly what key that's in. You know what I mean? So it's a preparedness, and that's going to save you money as a client.
Overall, yeah.
The more prepared you are. Now, if you're, an artist that can spend the money and that kind of stuff and write in the studio,
Go
for it.
Yeah.
If you want that aspect and you need that ambiance, and that helps you write, sure. But understand that you're going to pay hourly to sit there and write. But if you come up, especially rock bands, when there's 3, 4, 5 people in a band, if they all know their part and you can track it, 1 or 2 tracks, man, you're gonna not only gonna save money, but I think it's gonna sound better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you already know what you're gonna do. And now, of course, whatever producer or whatever engineer is in there is probably gonna try to guide you in different spots and try to and listen to them. But if it's like you are just 100% not okay with what they're trying to do, tell them that.
Yeah.
Tell them that. No, this is my session, not yours.
Yeah.
Okay? And a lot of them will try to force you into stuff that you just don't want to do. Don't do it. Just don't. No, I want this. This is what I want. This is what this is what I've dreamed in my head for so many years. This is what I want. I want to track it all live.
Yeah.
I don't want to multi-track things. I want everybody to play together, or vice versa. I want to multi-track everything, make it perfect, pristine, or I want that live feel, So, get over yourself. Don't be an asshole.
That's a good life rule.
Yeah. Just in life, don't be an asshole.
Did you hear that, Josh?
Because I guarantee.
Don't be an asshole. Sorry.
I got headphones on.
I can't hear shit. That's going in there. So don't be a dickhead and listen to everybody. Everybody's there for a reason. If the engineer's telling you one thing, don't block it out of your mind completely. But if you hate the idea, say it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you're going to be a dickhead, that engineer can be a bigger dick. And he also is controlling everything you're doing. So you don't want to piss him off. Don't piss him off.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Right, exactly. But I guarantee you he's dealt with other guys that have been a larger asshole. So there's so many egos and so much stuff in this business. Just fucking just bite your tongue. If he says it's going to sound better that way, more than likely, if he's the engineer, he's been there a long time, knows what he's doing, and you're there for a reason, you paid for that engineer, then just say, okay. And then at the end of the day, if the end of the mix, it doesn't sound good, and you tell them, hey, I don't like that. Okay, well, let's change it.
Like, try it, give it a go, and if you don't like it, at the end of the day,
I like putting lots of reverb and delays and echoes and stuff on people's vocal. A lot of people don't like that shit. So I do it. Hey, listen to it. If you like it, fucking rock on. If you don't, I'll change it, man. You're paying me.
Yeah.
So yeah, spend your money wisely.
Spend your money wisely. Come prepared.
Especially nowadays with the inflation.
So much to say on that, man, but
I can't inflate. I can't inflate my fucking rates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's only so high I can go where people will still come into my basement. So stop. Fight inflation, guys.
Come on, let's do it.
Everybody together.
Well, hell yeah, man. Well, any other last words you want to say, just real quick?
No, man. I think it was great. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast. I appreciate it,
dude. Absolutely, man. Definitely, it was great. I was really looking forward to having you on. Like,
Lovesick.
And
drop Lovesick. Everybody.
Lovesick.
Yeah.
It's coming out. It was
soon.
recorded here at the Underground Attic. Check out undergroundattic.com.
Underground Attic Studios.
Studios.com. Definitely, if y'all are prepared, ready to rock musician, come into the studio. Brad's going to take great care of you and make sure you get out there and then just go for it, man. Don't give up on nothing. Go swing for the fucking fences. And then, Bradley, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys.
Pleasure.
We'll see you guys next time on the Strange Herd podcast. Make sure to like, follow, and hit that like button and all that other stuff that you have to fucking say to get people to follow you.
Do it.
Do it.
Just fucking do it.
Do it. All right, brother.
Yeah.
Woo, buddy.
Sweet.
That's a wrap, bud.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you with the headphones.
You fucking piece of shit.